Chapter 181 _ Action at Night 4 more. Yanlingji's slap also seemed to wake up Shu Fan. He didn't say anything, just pulled Yanlingji into his arms, hugged her, and made her face rest on his chest. Perhaps the warmth in his chest was the warmest place for her. As for Jing Salamander, Shu Fan felt that he was sorry for no one, and no one could be sorry. And Yanlingji leaned against Shu Fan's chest, and her emotions slowly eased. No matter how much sadness there is, when she finds Shu Fan again at this moment, she feels that everything before is worth it. Does it hurt? After a few minutes, Yanlingji had already slowed down, touched Shu Fan's resolute face, and said softly. Shu Fan glanced down at Yanlingji and shook his head. I don't understand you. The skin is very thick, where does it hurt? Yeah, you're a tough guy. No matter how you beat him, it won't hurt. Shu Fan's words seemed to remind Yanlingji that when Shu Fan was with him when he was a child, no matter how he beat Shu Fan, he always took his own. The pain from the beating was endless, but Shu Fan didn't care. Thinking of this, Yanlingji suddenly smiled, at this very warm moment. The wooden door was suddenly slammed open from the outside. Brother Zhang, I have good news to tell you. I'm sorry, that... Continue. Seeing the two hugging each other in the room, Han Fei's face stiffened. There was some embarrassment. How could he have thought that Shu Fan would hug a woman in the room? He glanced at the woman who was hugging Shu Fan. She was very beautiful. Even though he was used to seeing beautiful women, Han Fei had to say that Yanlingji was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Even his father's Mrs. Pearl and Fox Beauty can't compare. Of course, he didn't think Yanlingji was Zilanshuan's dancer or Qinji. If so, he should have seen it long ago. Obviously, Yanlingji should be from outside, not even in Korea. After all, Shu Fan, like him, has just returned to Xinjiang. He has not been in Xinjiang for 1989, so how could he have an old friend in Xinjiang? Okay, don't leave when you come. Shu Fan, Vivi Isho, didn't feel embarrassed. After all, they didn't do anything shameful. On the contrary, Yanlingji Vivi is a little shy. Compared with Yanlingji in the original work, she is less charming and more youthful and beautiful. After all, the experience is different. Let me introduce you. This is my sister Yanlingji. Hello, Miss Yanlingji, I'm Han Fei. At the same time, he said in his heart, what sister? It is probably a love sister. Of course, Han Fei could only be envious of this. He also has a younger sister, although she is also very good-looking, but she is a real younger sister. And Yanlingji said that she was her younger sister. From the looks of the two, she knew that the two should not be related by blood. Yanlingji was in a good mood at the moment. When Han Fei said hello to her, she didn't throw a pinch of flame directly, but nodded with a smile. Brother Han, I can already confirm that Ji Wuya did it for the robbery case. Oh, can you be so sure? Yes, Han Fei said confidently. Isho. If he hadn't gone to Ji Wei's mansion to see for himself, Han Fei might not have been sure, but after the Admiral military mansion had gone so far, he was basically certain that the military salaries were stolen by Ji Wuya. Just because Ji Wuya and Jade Tiger were gambling money in the mansion, he could be sure that the golden leaf on that table had fallen into his hands. The reason why Han Fei concluded this can be explained by a psychology of later generations. That is the nouveau riche mentality of vanity. When a person suddenly becomes rich, he will have a feeling that he does not know how to spend the money, and then he will do some stupid things that are very unreasonable. And the biggest possibility is to show off wealth. For example, buy a large gold chain to wear around your neck, and buy a famous watch strap in your hand. Then when he spoke, he deliberately opened his collar so that people could see the big gold chain around his neck. Or when he was talking, he unknowingly asked how much time it was, and then when someone took out his mobile phone, he directly stretched out his hand to reveal his watch. This is called showing off, and it is also called pretending to be 13. People like to show off since ancient times, and Ji Wuya is naturally unavoidable. No, as soon as I got the money, I started to wave, showing off my wealth in front of those beautiful women, showing off, so as to satisfy my vanity. Although Jiwuya was an admiral army, Hanfei didn't believe it when he said that his money could be put on the table to play around. After all, the salaries of all the officials in the court were not yet distributed, so why did Jiwuya have so much money? Then do you know where he hid going? Hey, it's not very clear at the moment, but I believe that in a day or so, I'll know, but when the time comes, Brother Zhang may need your shot. Why don't you call your brother Wei Zhuang to shoot? Shu Fan VV Isho. He's so cool, I think he's going to steal my show by standing with me. What about me, am I not cool? You're not cool, but you're handsome, and I'm also handsome. When we walk together, no one can steal the limelight. What's more, I'm a good friend with you, right? I love hearing what you said. Well, you don't need to be checked. Tonight, I will help you bring all going back. Shu Fan, VV Isho. The sky slowly darkened. Night fell, and when it was completely dark, the lanterns were hung up one by one. There are lanterns on both sides of the street, so that people who travel at night can clearly see the road. Call out. In the dark night, a black shadow flew by fiercely, revealing a pair of golden rays of light. Blue House looked at the plaque on his head, Shu Fan VV Isho. Immediately, it turned into a shadow and entered the mansion. At this moment, he was wearing a black suit and a judge's mask on his face, making it difficult to see his true face. Since he planned to see Jiwuya, how could Shu Fan not bring him some gifts? It would be too rude to see him empty-handed. So Shu Fan planned to bring him a big gift. Lu Yi, one of Jiwuya's confidants, holds the post of Zuo Sima. At the beginning, Jiwuya ordered him to kill Shu Fan. Shu Fan was naturally aware of this, so he found Lu Yi. This guy is not only violent, but also very lecherous, and often runs to Zilanzan. Shu Fan had seen him once at Zilanzan before. If he was given to Jiwuya as a gift, Jiwuya would definitely be very surprised. The night seemed to be quieter. In the sky, the originally bright moon was slowly obscured by dark clouds, and there was no trace of Gecko in this world. Chapter 182 – Lu Yi's death. Although Zuo Sima was also in the army, the defenses in his mansion were far worse than Jiwuya's Admiral Mansion. Jiwuya's Admiral military mansion was guarded by hundreds of soldiers, while Lu Yi's mansion had only a dozen or so soldiers. The gap was not that big at all. Of course, Lu Yi didn't care about it. After all, in the whole of Korea, who doesn't know that Lu Yi is Jiwuya's person? To fight against him is to fight against Jiwuya. What's more, Lu Yi still has a little confidence in his own strength. It is impossible for ordinary people to kill him. And Shu Fan shuttled through the huge Lu mansion like no one else. This guy doesn't look very good. I didn't expect the mansion to be no worse than the Shangguo mansion. I can imagine how much money this guy has embezzled. As for the scary people in the mansion, in front of Shu Fan's terrifying Onmyo technique, even if Shu Fan walked past them, they would not have the slightest difference. The illusion in the Onmyoji technique, Shu Fan has already reached a very terrifying realm, especially Shu Fan's eyes. As long as he is willing to look at the other party, it is enough to make the other party fall into the illusion. Its horror can be imagined. After searching for a long time, Shu Fan finally found the guy in Lu Yi's study. This guy is worthy of her name as a lecher. At this moment, he is playing Arhat with one of his concubine in the study. Shu Fan has just appeared. I admired a live erotic palace. Oops, please take it easy, my lord. Ah. Then there was a violent kick and vibration, and Shu Fan was so quietly hiding in the dark to watch, not because Shu Fan liked to watch the live spring palace, but Shu Fan was definitely going out at his most important moment. Then 10 minutes passed. Damn, I didn't expect this guy to last long. In other words, Lu Yi's wife is better looking than his concubine, right? It's a pity that I can only be a widow in the future. Shu Fan, VV Isho, did not wait any longer. Straight out of the darkness. And Lu Yi was at a critical moment. He felt that he was about to lose an inch. Just when he was about to carry out some transportation, and then a wave of fierce artillery bombardment came, he suddenly saw a person standing in the corner of the wall. He fixed his eyes and said, "Damn, isn't he just standing alone? Who is it?" Lu Yi was taken aback. The original feeling disappeared in an instant, and the cannon that was ready to fire instantly turned into a squib, and it couldn't be fired. Shu Fan, Vivi Isho, came out of the darkness. Yeah, the concubine was also taken aback by surprise, and regardless of her own spring, she stood up and planned to run away. But Shu Fan just lightly tapped, and a small sword chi suddenly flew out from Shu Fan's fingertips. Puff! The sound of a watermelon bursting sounded, and the concubine instantly turned into a headless corpse. That concubine was very good-looking, otherwise Lu Yi would not have brought him back, but what she didn't know was that following a person like Lu Yi would be a road of no return. Seeing his concubine die in front of him like this, no matter how bold Lu Yi was, his face was horrified and pale at the moment. Touching his face, Vivi felt a little wet. It was the blood of his concubine. "Master Lu, do you still remember me?" Shu Fan Vivi Isho, the whole person completely came out of the darkness. When he saw the mask on Shu Fan's face, Lu Yi was desperate. "It's you, how could you possibly appear in Xinjiang?" When he saw the mask on Shu Fan's face, Lu Yi was like falling into an ice valley, and the whole person was desperate. This mask will never be forgotten in his life. It was this guy at the beginning, who ran into their army alone, and with a flute, wiped out an army of nearly 100,000. Even Bai Yifei, in this person's hands, still hadn't gone through 3 moves, and that terrifying strength was unforgettable to this day. It seems that Mr. Lu has a good memory, and he didn't even forget me, so do you know who I am? Shu Fan laughed playfully. Lu Yi was taken aback. Then, under Lu Yi's gaze, Shu Fan slowly took off the mask on his face. When Shu Fan's familiar face appeared in front of Lu Yi, he was stunned. "It's you, Zhang Yun, aren't you dead?" Compared with Ji Wuya, Lu Yi and Shu Fan are a little more familiar, because the original Shu Fan worked under Lu Yi, which is why Lu Yi can so easy to yin to Shu Fan's sake. "Yeah, I'm dead. Didn't I turn into a ghost again and come to ask Master Lu for his life?" Shu Fan mocked. Lu Yi still didn't understand. Shu Fan didn't die at all. From the beginning to the end, this guy was the ghost judge. No wonder that guy wanted to stand on Bai Yu's side. It turned out to be because of him and Ji Wuya. At this moment, Lu Yi wanted to understand everything. "Did you suddenly realize that you understood everything? It's a pity that you're going to die soon, so it's useless even if you understand. Don't kill me. I can give you money. I'll give you everything. My wife, all my property, please let me go." Regardless of how naked he was, Lu Yi directly he knelt down in front of Shu Fan and kept kowtow. The ground was slammed by him. As for resistance, don't think about it. Bai Yifei is such a strong guy. He didn't make 3 moves in front of Shu Fan at the beginning. He didn't think he could be the opponent's opponent. Begging for mercy, Shu Fan shook his head. "That's not possible. You are a gift I want to give to Ji Wuya. How could I forgive you? But don't worry, Ji Wuya and the others will come to accompany you in the future. Wait. I've tortured them enough. They'll come to you. As for you, let's go first." "No," Lu Yi shouted in despair, and planned to turn around and run away. It's a pity that in front of Shu Fan, there are not many people in the whole world who can escape. Lu Yi's resistance was in vain. As Shu Fan waved his hand, the sword energy formed by the internal force suddenly swept away. Puff! In the next second, a head flew high, and blood spurted out from the half of the body below him, and the whole room was sprayed with blood in an instant. Boom! At this time, the guards who heard the screams in the house just came, but when they pushed the gate of opening, all they saw was Lu Yi's blood-spitting head. As for her head, it disappeared. Boom! Lu Yi's body fell to the ground with a bang, and everyone came back to their senses. "It's not good. Lord Lu Yi is dead. Lord Lu Yi is dead." Afterwards, the Lu residence was full of chickens and dogs. On the other side, Shu Fan still held Lu Yi's head, disappeared into the night, and rushed towards the general's residence. This night was destined to be a sleepless night. The Lu residence was not far from the Admiral Military Mansion. Shu Fan arrived at the Admiral Military Mansion in just a moment. The entire general mansion was brightly lit, and Ji Wuya hadn't slept yet. He was discussing something with the Jade Tiger. End of this chapter. Chapter 183 _ Night into the General's Mansion. Compared with Lu Yi's Lu Mansion, Ji Wui's Admiral Military Mansion has a completely different vigilance. Even in the dark, there are countless pairs of eyes staring at the General Mansion's surroundings all the time in the darkness of the General Mansion. On the eaves of the General's Mansion, two figures, black and white, were sitting above. The two were none other than Bai Feng and Mo Ya under Ji Wui's subordinates. It was not long before Bai Feng joined Nightfall and was taken by Mo Ya, who had been in Nightfall for 6 years, and was deeply trusted by Ji Wuya, and was Ji Wui's bodyguard. Mo Ya's Qinggong is very high, which also makes him very fast. It belongs to the kind of first-class killer, perhaps not as good as the Tian-level killer of Luo Wang, but it is not much worse. When Ji Wuya wanted to kill someone, he basically dispatched him. And Mo Ya has never let Ji Wuya down. As long as Mo Ya does it, the final mission will definitely be successful, and the 5 chief judges of the military robbery case who died recently in Xinjiang City were all killed by him. In hand. If it wasn't for the fact that Han Fei's identity was too special, plus Wei Zhuang who came with Han Fei this afternoon, it is estimated that Ji Wuya would have sent him to secretly attack Han Fei at this moment. You look at the sky, look at the moon, what did you see? Looking up at the half-moon covered by dark clouds, Mo Ya asked Bai Feng who was beside him. At this moment, Bai Feng does not have the cold temperament he had when he was in quicksand. At this moment, his face is still full of immaturity, plus some innocence. What can I see? It's not just the moon and the dark clouds, what else can there be? Bai Feng looked up and then said to Mo Ya. No, I see it under the endless light, the shroud of night. I don't understand what you're talking about. Bai Feng glanced at Mo Ya speechlessly. You'll understand later. The light is strong, there will be a time to retreat, and when the light leaves, only darkness will come. Even in the vast desert, there are shadows that the sun cannot reach. Just after saying this, both of them looked in the same direction at the same time. They can be 100% sure that in the moment just now, someone flew past them because the air moved. Perhaps the other party's Qinggong is very terrifying, so terrifying that no matter how fast the speed is, it won't make much noise, but the absence of sound does not mean that the air will not flow. Naturally understand this truth, which is why they didn't see people, but they knew that in the moment just now, someone flew past them. At the same time, Mo Ya and Bai Feng felt a chill in their hearts. If the person who just flew by has any ill will towards them, then at the speed of the other side, the two of them are already cold corpses at this moment. You feel it too, Bai Feng looked at Mo Ya and said. Hearing this, Mo Ya frowned and nodded. What is going to happen? The direction he left is the general's location, let's hurry over. After Mo Ya finished speaking, the whole person turned into a black shadow and rushed out the next second. Bai Feng heard the words, and also used her internal power, turned into a white shadow, and followed. And the figure that suddenly flew over was none other than Shu Fan. Just now, he deliberately flew past the two of them, and his movements were already very careful, but he didn't expect to be discovered by Bai Feng and Mo Ya. Now that he was discovered, Shu Fan did not continue to move forward, but stopped directly on an eaves. The movements of Bai Feng and Mo Ya were not slow. After a while, the two of them caught up and saw Shu Fan standing on the eaves at a glance. Don't get close yet. Looking at Shu Fan who was standing still on the eaves, Mo Ya waved his hand to stop Bai Feng. The two looked at each other at a distance of 20 or 30 meters. There seems to be something in his hand, Bai Feng said. When Mo Ya heard the words, she noticed that Shu Fan was still holding something in his hand. At this moment, the moonlight is not too much, but the eyes of those who practice martial arts are very good. The two took a closer look and immediately understood what Shu Fan was holding. It was a head. As for who it was, because it was so dark, they couldn't see the face of the head at all. When their eyes fell on Shu Fan, they noticed that Shu Fan was also wearing a mask, making it difficult to see his true face. "Wait until I call 3, and we'll do it together," Moya said softly in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Bai Feng nodded without a trace. 1, 2, 3. When the 3 words blurted out, Bai Feng and Moya rushed out in an instant. The white guard fingers on Bai Feng's 5 fingers were also helped by the internal force, turned into several white shadows, and flew towards Shu Fan with a whistling sound. The speed of the two of them is very fast, but the distance of just 20 to 30 meters, it only took less than half a second for the two of them. Such a speed is already very terrifying. But the enemy they faced was Shu Fan, a guy whose speed was more terrifying than the two of them. Others couldn't react, but Shu Fan couldn't react. Facing the flying guard finger, Shu Fan stretched out his hand to block it, and then blocked it directly. The finger guard hit Shu Fan's body, making a clanging sound like metal colliding. The 7th layer profound armor technique is no joke, let alone them, even if it is a master at the Grandmaster realm, it is very difficult to hurt Shu Fan. No, this guy is a cultivator of hard skills. Retreat. Moya's expression changed when he heard the sound of metal colliding from Shu Fan's body. However, his words were slow, because the two of them had already reached a distance of 3 or 4 meters from Shu Fan, so how could Shu Fan let them go? The golden light in Shu Fan's eyes flashed fiercely, and the illusion was activated instantly. The two of them froze in place. Fortunately they had already crossed the blank area in the middle of the eaves, otherwise they would not be as simple as stunned in place, but fell directly to the ground, without the protection of internal force. If you fall from a height of 10 meters, even if you don't die, it will be a minor serious injury. If you don't take care of it for a month and a half, it's probably not going to get better. Glancing at the two motionless black crows, Shu Fan's mouth turned upward, and he turned and flew towards GY's place. As for the two of them, it is estimated that they will not be able to recover without a half-day effort. On the other hand, the battle on Shu Fan's side was not very dynamic. In addition, Shu Fan solved the battle too fast, so no one in the entire general's mansion noticed the change. General, then Han Fei must have discovered something. If you want me to say, it is better to do him directly. Even if it is a prince, there are more than 10 sons of the king. Although Han Fei is a prince, but he studied art abroad all year round. He didn't get along with Han Wangan for a long time. To put it mildly, he couldn't even make it into the top 5. Even if Ji Wuya really did him, Han Wangan probably wouldn't be too sad. But thinking of Wei Zhuang who was with Han Fei today, Ji Wuya frowned. As the general worried about the person who came with Han Fei today, Emerald Tiger thought about what Ji Wuya was thinking. As a successful businessman, his brain is naturally not too bad. This guy has abandoned the army to go into business since the Battle of Bayou. Not to mention, although this guy is not very strong in force, his brain is indeed smart, and he is so skilled in business. End of this chapter. Chapter 184 Frightened 2. With GY's help, this guy quickly made a lot of money. Of course, all of this money went into his GY's pocket. After all, the Jade Tiger was doing errands for him Ji Wuya. Moreover, Jade Tiger is also quite insightful in the review of the matter, and won GY's trust. Ji Wuya has many confidants, but the Jade Tiger is the only one who has his heart. Otherwise, every time he drinks and plays with women, it will not be the Jade Tiger. You really are a roundworm in my stomach. You can guess what I think. Ji Wuya Vivi Isho said. At this moment, there are only the two of them in the entire hall. As for those women, they would have driven them away long ago. Otherwise, the Emerald Tiger would not dare to say that no matter how daring it was just now. Ji Wuya couldn't keep him. Then tell me, how should the guy beside Han Fei deal with him? General, that person wants to solve it easily, and it is not easy to be afraid of death. Oh, you know him. Ji Wuya had some surprises. I don't know if the general has heard of the Guigu Zonggung family. You mean? Ji Wuya frowned suddenly. That's right, that person is one of the disciples of the Zonggung family. It was only by chance that I knew his identity. People from the Guigu faction are not easy to deal with. Ji Wuya nodded and agreed. Even if he was arrogant, after hearing the name of the Zonggung family, he had to admit that they were really strong. The common people are sneered, the world is dazzling, all the suns in hundreds of schools, only I am vertical and horizontal. A sect that can say such a sentence, and it has also been recognized by the world, who dares to underestimate it? That Su Qin, Zhang Yi, Sun Bin, and Peng Wan are the most representative figures of the Zonggung family. Although there are only two people, they can stir up the whole world. The successor of such a character, no matter how bad it is. However, even the people of the Guigu faction do not mean that they will not die. If the means are used well, it is not impossible to solve it, but what you need to do now, General, is not this. But deal with the batch of going. After the 7 days have passed, Han Fei can't solve the case. It's not just him who is unlucky, but also the old guy Zhang Kaidi. When the time comes, the king will blame him, and he won't do anything with the general. Instead, it will be Han Fei, but the general will solve it. It's not a matter of one sentence. As for the descendant of the Ghost Valley. General, do you think those who are caught in the net will be interested? Said Vivi Isho, the Emerald Tiger. It is not a secret that Zhao Gao collected famous swordsmen from all over the world. As for what to take, it was naturally suppressed by force, and a Ghost Valley descendant like Wei Zhuang might be interested. Ji Wuya burst into laughter when he heard the words. Emerald Tiger, I didn't expect you to be more sinister than me. General loves you. Emerald Tiger didn't feel anything about Ji Wuya's compliment, instead he laughed. Just when the two of them were very proud and pushed the cups to change, with a bang, a black thing suddenly flew in from outside the house. The two were shocked, and Ji Wuya stood up immediately. Serious look. Boom. After the black object flipped in midair for a long time, it landed on Ji Wuya's feet. But the two of them didn't care about the things on the ground at all, and they chased outside with their swords in hand, but when they chased outside, there were no figures and no ghosts. Damn it, let him run away. Ji Wuya was angry, obviously being disturbed by someone to drink, he was very upset. Blah blah blah. Only then did a pair of soldiers in armor rush over when they heard the movement. General, are you all right? Waste, why are you guarding the mansion? Everyone has come here. When the group of soldiers was scolded, they bowed their heads one by one, not daring to retaliate. General, come and take a look, this thing seems to be the head of a person. At this moment, the Jade Tiger came out of the house with a surprised voice. Ji Wuya heard the words and returned to the lobby with his sword in hand. When he walked to Jade Tiger's side, he found that Jade Tiger's face had turned pale. What's the matter with you? General, this is Lu Yi's, Jade Tiger said with a cold sweat. No wonder he was so frightened. No one is not afraid of death, he and Ji Wuya are both, otherwise they wouldn't be the fastest ones after the defeat in the Bayou battle. What's more, the dead person was Lu Yi. That person will take action against Lu Yi, not that he really wants Lu Yi to die. If the other party just has a grudge against Lu Yi, just kill Lu Yi. But the other party threw Lu Yi's head to the general's mansion, which means that the other party is demonstrating against Ji Wuya. This is to do something to Ji Wuya. And now the person who died is Lu Yi, so there is no guarantee that the next one will not be him. After all, Lu Yi, like him, is Ji Wuya's confidant. What? Ji Wuya was also surprised when he heard the words. Lu Yi is his confidant, plus Zuo Sima's official position is not small, usually above the court. As long as he fights with Zhang Kaidi, Lu Yi is definitely the first to support him. With Lu Yi helping to speak, many times Han Wang'an's decision will be influenced. In addition, Lu Yi represents his Ji Wuya's face, and the other party kills Lu Yi, doesn't it mean that he is coming for him Ji Wuya? Throwing Lu Yi's head was just a warning to him. Could it be Han Fei? Ji Wuya was shocked and angry, and at the same time a little panicked. After the Jade Tiger had just been worried, he almost recovered at this moment. Hearing Ji Yui's words, he directly said, "It can't be him. Lu Yi is also representing you as a general, and Han Fei can't afford to risk his own life to put on the name of killing officials in the DPRK, because it's the prince." Hearing this, Ji Wuya nodded in agreement. He was so angry just now that he didn't understand it for a while. Thinking about it at this moment, it should not have been done by Han Fei. Is it the descendant of the Ghost Valley? Ji Wuya continued to wonder. Except for Han Fei, all he could think of was Wei Zhuang. It can't be him. Jade Tiger heard the words and thought for a while. Wei Zhuang came to Han Fei once today. If he really did it, then they only need to point out that Lu Yi was killed by Han Fei. Even if Han Fei is the prince, it is a great sin. Han Fei is not a fool. Maybe let Wei Zhuang do this. Then who else, in the whole of Xinjiang, dares to oppose me, besides that kid Han Fei? Who else? Does the general feel that it might be Zhang Yun who did it at this time? Jade Tiger's eyes suddenly flashed a gloomy voice. He, referring to Xu Fan, Ji Wuya suddenly felt that this guy was very likely. The person who harmed Xu Fan at the beginning was Lu Yi. Maybe Xu Fan was trying to get revenge on them, but he really didn't believe that Xu Fan had that ability. After all, Lu Yi's martial arts skills are not bad, and the guards of his general's mansion are so strict, plus Bai Feng and Moya are outside, ordinary people can't break in at all. End of this chapter. Chapter 185_Illusion. By the way, Bai Feng and Moya, those two people who eat inside and out, people, let them come to see me. Thinking of Moya and Bai Feng, the nameless fire in Ji Yui's heart suddenly it burned both of them. Obviously, he blamed all of this on the negligence of the two. General, Chief Black Crow and Lord Bai Feng seem to have been attacked by the enemy. At this moment, an ordinary killer at night came running. What? Take me there. Ji Wuya was startled and said. Then, under the leadership of that person, Ji Wuya and Jade Tiger quickly came to the roof where Moya and Bai Feng were. The two of them saw Moya and Bai Feng standing motionless on the eaves from a distance. The two of them seemed to freeze on the eaves, but from the struggling expressions on their faces, it could be seen that they were actually frozen. And nothing happened. But it seems to be suffering something. What happened to the two of them? This, General, your subordinates don't know either. The soldier who was being questioned looked confused. Useless waste, go to the side. Ji Wuya held the Jade Tiger beside him in one hand and jumped up. But even if the two walked in front of them, Moya and Bai Feng still didn't make any movement. It seems that they really fell for the enemy's trick. No wonder Moya and Bai Feng didn't sound the alarm. It has been resolved by the other party. But what made him curious was why Moya and Bai Feng didn't die. Since he killed Lu Yi, it meant that he was coming for him, and Moya and Bai Feng felt that they could be regarded as his capable hands, but the other party did not. No start, what does it mean? General, looking at the expressions of the two of them, it is estimated that they have suffered from an illusion. Jade Tiger carefully observed the two and said. He is a businessman, and he has seen and heard a lot of things, and the expressions on Bai Feng and Moya's faces at the moment are obviously illusions. After all, they have no injuries on their bodies, and their eyes are open, but it is standstill. Besides illusion, he couldn't think of any other moves. Illusion. Yes, illusion, a strange method. If I remember correctly, I will fall into an illusion. If I remember correctly, it will also be white. Jade Tiger said. Of course, there is absolutely no way that this person was made by Bai Yifei, it could only be someone else. As if afraid of Ji Yui's misunderstanding, Jade Tiger continued. That guy Bai Yifei is also a ruthless person, he doesn't want to offend him for nothing. In this world, there are not many sects that know how to use illusion, but there are not many. The most famous ones are Taoism and Yin-Yang. There are also some wizards in Baiyu who also use it. Of course, there are also some people who get it by chance. But the illusion is so powerful that both Moya and Bai Feng can be recruited. The strength of the incoming person is definitely not simple. Jade Tiger continued. And Ji Wuya was silent for a while. Taoism and Yin-Yang family can be ruled out, and the only possibility is the people from Baiyu. After all, the two of them participated in the battle to suppress Baiyu. Although they were defeated in the end, many Baiyu people died in their hands. If Baiyu's people came to take revenge, it was not possible. Not small. As for Shu Fan, they were already ruled out by them subconsciously. A person who can use illusions and has strong martial arts, they think that the possibility of Shu Fan is too small. But no matter whether it was done by Shu Fan or someone from Baiyu, it had a certain impact on them, that's for sure. At least Ji Wuya and Jade Tiger were frightened. It was impossible for them to sleep peacefully tonight. What Ji Wuya didn't know was that the captain of one of his personal guards had long since disappeared. On the other hand, Shu Fan had come to a small hill on the west side of Xinjiang City alone. It was not unreasonable for him to come here, because Ji Wuya had kept all the goings he stole here secretly. The guards are dozens of elite killers of the night. Shu Fan didn't know this location originally, but it was not difficult for Shu Fan to know the news. After capturing a captain of GY's personal guard and pouring it directly into his brain, Shu Fan got such a place. Don't underestimate the yin-yang technique of the yin-yang family, because his horror is completely unimaginable by ordinary people. However, if you do this, the person who is invaded will die immediately. Normally, Shu Fan would not use this method, but Shu Fan has nothing to be kind to GY's subordinates. Those guys followed Ji Wuya, but they didn't do a lot of necrosis, and if they died, they would die. What's more, the weak eat the strong, that's how it is. Boom! A thunder flashed. The dazzling white light illuminated the whole world in an instant, and those elite killers in the night, also through the dazzling white light, noticed that a person appeared at the entrance of the cave. Who? A killer warned. Puff. His words just fell, and the answer to him was a rush of sword energy, which instantly shot him into a sieve. Enemy. Enemy. _ Everyone immediately understood that someone had come to steal the money. Immediately reacted, dozens of people rushed directly towards Shu Fan, leaving only one person running in the other direction. Looking at the direction he left, he was running towards Xinjiang City, obviously to report a letter. It is estimated that he wants to go to rescue the soldiers. After all, it is not far from Xinjiang. With the addition of more than 30 people, it should be able to support it. But what he didn't expect was that just after he left his forefoot, in the next second, countless sword chi swept the entire cave, just like Shu Fan could master swordsmanship. Within 100 paces, it is indeed no different from swordsmanship. Moreover, it is still wielding dozens of sharp swords at the same time. Once it is used, it is no different from a sword chi storm. What about the night elites? It is estimated that even the powerhouses of the innate realm and the innate realm will be killed in seconds in front of Shu Fan, not to mention that these are basically the acquired 9th level, and occasionally a killer who has reached the innate human realm. In front of Shu Fan, they could only be killed in seconds. In an instant, except for Shu Fan, there was no one alive in the entire cave. Seeing the figure that was leaving quickly, Shu Fan didn't do anything. If he killed everyone, how would Ji Wuya know about the gift he gave, so Shu Fan didn't kill that person. Then Shu Fan walked into the cave and saw a mountain of gold coins. So much, at least it can fit more than 10 carriages. If you change it to other people, if you are alone, you really can't transport them all, but for Shu Fan, it is not a problem. As soon as Shu Fan raised his hand, the golden inner strength of the heavenly gang suddenly appeared three-dimensionally. Like a cloud, the entire Jinshan was wrapped up in an instant, and then hung in the air. A few heavy goings are no different from the air in Shu Fan's view. End of this chapter. Chapter 186 _ Ji Wuya who vomited blood again, one more. Then Shu Fan kicked his back foot lightly, and the whole person flew out immediately, and behind him, followed by a golden mountain tail. In the cave, Shu Fan also left a gold coin for Ji Wuya to ridicule the guy. Presumably the guy would want to vomit blood when he saw that there was only one gold coin left in his cave. With a golden mountain tail behind him, Shu Fan was not afraid of being seen. After all, it was completely deep at the moment, and there were a lot of dark clouds in the sky, and there were not many gecko people see. Under the cover of night, Shu Fan quickly returned to Xinjiang. At the place agreed with Han Fei, when Shu Fan landed, Han Fei directly greeted him. The judge mask on Shu Fan's face had already been taken off by him. "Brother Zhang, have you succeeded?" Han Fei smiled when he saw Shu Fan returning. Shu Fan, Vivi Isho, glanced behind him. Then, in Han Fei's shocked eyes, a pile of gold mountains flew over, and then slammed into the ground with a bang. The movement was not small. Fortunately, the place they chose was the abandoned cold palace in the palace, otherwise it would be true. Will attract the attention of others. It was also the first time that Han Fei saw Shu Fan's strength most intuitively, which was really unfathomable. Although Han Fei does not have martial arts skills, it does not mean that he does not know the level of martial arts. After all, his master Xuanzi is also a strong man above the master realm. He also told Han Fei about the realm of martial arts. If the internal force can be released, the Shantian realm can do it, but if you want to be external and powerful, and have control over the internal force, you must not be in the master realm. And Shu Fan's ability to hold a golden mountain to perform light work with a blank face is enough to prove Shu Fan's strength. The master of the master realm. As for the realm of the master, he couldn't see it. Although Vivi had some surprises, it wasn't too surprising, after all, he had imagined so. And Jinshan slammed to the ground with a bang, but it startled Han Fei. Looking at Shu Fan, Han Fei said helplessly, "Isho, I said Brother Zhang, can't you take it lightly? I almost lost my soul. You dare to walk into such a deserted and quiet palace alone. You want to say that you are timid, but I don't believe it. Also, bang, it doesn't exactly represent the authenticity of these goings, so you know that you are not dreaming." Shu Fan Vivi Isho said. Han Fei immediately embarrassed Isho. Because as Shu Fan said, he quite likes to hear the sound of gold hitting the ground. Now that going has been recovered, it doesn't matter whether the ghost soldiers took it or not, the important thing is that going has been recovered. His position as secretary is also stable. Brother Zhang has helped me so much. If you have any needs, you can say that as long as I can satisfy them, I will satisfy you. The military robbery case came to an end, and Han Fei was in a good mood for a while. No need, I have already got what I want, and I can help myself as well. It's my uncle who is open, you know. After Shu Fan finished speaking, he turned around and wanted to leave. Brother Zhang, wait, these goings, please help me move them. Seeing that Shu Fan was about to leave, Han Fei said quickly. You should handle these things by yourself. From a distance, Shu Fan's voice came, and the person had already disappeared into the darkness, and Han Fei shook his head helplessly. Oh, forget it, people have already helped so much, I'll do it myself. After speaking, Han Fei also left to find someone to carry the gold. As for whether going will be stolen from here, Han Fei is not worried at all. No one will come here at all. What's more, he will only leave for a while. Except for a pervert like Shu Fan, who is the can remove these goings. Shu Fan did not return to the Prime Minister's mansion, but returned to his own new house in Xinjiang. Although he was from the Zhang family, he lived in the Prime Minister's mansion. There were so many people in the mansion that Shu Fan was really too lazy to deal with them, so he let him go. Han Fei got him a house. That guy is a prince after all, so getting a mansion is still very simple. In the mansion, Han Fei also arranged maids and servants for Shu Fan. When Shu Fan returned to the mansion, Yan Lingji had been waiting for him for a long time. You, back. Seeing Shu Fan returning, Yan Lingji greeted her with a smile on her face. Although she was very aware of Shu Fan's strength and knew that he could not have an accident, she couldn't help but worry. Women are like this, They care about a person, no matter whether he has the ability or not, they will worry about it. Didn't I tell you to rest early? I can't sleep until I see you come back safely. Yan Lingji showed a beautiful smile. It's not that you don't know, the people who can hurt me in the world can be counted on one hand, what are you worried about? Looking at Yan Lingji, Shufan Vivi Isho said. Although the words are said, but the heart is warm, it is indeed a very happy thing to have someone who cares about you and cares about you. Silent all night. In the early morning of the next day, the whole Xinjiang was lively, and the vigilance of the whole city was stricter than before. Just because Zuo Sima Luyi, a high-ranking official in the DPRK, died in his own mansion, his head was beheaded. In the end, his head was sent by the thieves to Ji Wei's mansion in the Admiral Military Mansion. After hearing the news, Ji Wuya vomited blood directly. This is why the whole city is under martial law. But only those who really know the situation know that Ji Wuya vomited blood not because of Lu Yi's death, but because his going was gone. That is more than 100,000 gold coins. The value of gold coins and gold leaves is 1 to 5. 100,000 gold coins is 500,000 gold leaves. Such a number is completely astronomical. Such a large amount of money is gone. It's strange that Ji Wuya didn't vomit blood. Especially the one left in the cave. The seat is still so conspicuous, even if Ji Wuya is a fool, he knows that the other party deliberately stayed to ridicule him. So that this guy was so angry that he didn't go up this morning. And Han Fei was helpless for a while after learning the news, because he was sure that the person who killed Lu Yi was definitely Shu Fan. And Shu Fan also has that strength. He is clear about the grievances between Shu Fan and Lu Yi. Of course, he does not mean to blame Shu Fan. After all, Lu Yi itself is not a good thing, and there are a lot of corruption and bribes. Such people continue to stay in Korea, and they also eat the borers on the big tree in Korea, which is harmful and not beneficial. It is better to die. However, as Korea's new Seiko, the investigation into Lu Yi's death naturally fell into the hands of Han Fei. What he is worried about now is who should he find to take the blame for Shu Fan. Looking for Shu Fan, it is completely impossible, not to mention that the two are friends now. Even if they are not friends, he wants to arrest Shu Fan. Can he be caught? End of this chapter. Chapter 187_ Quicksand Establishment 2 more. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and because the case did not progress, Lu Yi's case was just stranded. And Shu Fan and Han Fei drink at Zilanshuan every day. Of course, because after Yan Lingji was found, Shu Fan stopped asking Wu Ji to drink with him every time he went to Zilanshuan. With Yan Lingji, where is it? Other women are needed. Brother Han, you don't seem to be in a good mood today. Seeing Han Fei frowning from time to time, Shu Fan said. It's not very good. That guy Ji Wuya was taken away because of going. These two people in the court, targeting me like a mad dog, it really annoys me. So, do you intend to get rid of him? Said Shu Fan Vivi Isho. When Han Fei heard the words, he was stunned for a moment. He drank a glass of wine and did not speak. And Shu Fan didn't speak, but the corners of his mouth turned up. Looking at Han Fei, he knew that Han Fei must have something to say to him. Shu Fan remembers that Han Fei and Wei Zhuang established quicksand together with Wei Zhuang after the Going robbery was solved in the original book. If he guessed correctly, Han Fei should have thought that way at the moment, but there were more Shu Fan and Yan Lingji two people. Miss Nongyu, can I trouble you to call Miss Xinu and brother Wei Zhuang? Han Fei suddenly put down the wine glass in his hand and asked Nongyu, who was playing the piano. Nongyu stopped and nodded. Okay, Nongyu will go, please wait a moment. After speaking, Vivi bowed and opened the wooden door and went out. The three did not wait long before the wooden door was opened again. Wei Zhuang and Xinu walked in from the outside, and Nongyu followed behind them. I don't know what your son has to do with us. As soon as the purple girl came in, she gestured to Shu Fan and Yan Lingji Vivi's forehead, and then looked at Han Fidao. Nongyu just made it clear that it was Han Fei who was looking for them, not Shu Fan. Actually, I came here because I wanted to form an organization. Young master is really joking. You set up an organization and came to us. Could it be that you are planning to let the two of you join? That's right, it's not just Miss Z girl, you and brother Wei Zhuang, brother Zhang. Miss Yanlingji and Miss Nongyu, I plan to invite you to join. I want to change Korea, and even let Korea dominate the 7th country. Han Fei finally said the deepest words in his heart. He wants to change Korea, but his strength alone is not enough. So he needs the help of others, and Wei Zhuang Zufan is his best help. The two are not only smart, but also very skilled. As a descendant of the Ghost Valley, Wei Zhuang has a very good swordsmanship in the Ghost Valley. Amazing. As for Xu Fan, it is even more unfathomable, and his strength is even more terrifying. Wei Zhuang and Xinu were stunned when they heard the words. They could see the confidence radiating from Han Fei's face, the kind of confidence that came from the heart. Such confidence can easily infect others. And now, they're infected, as you can see from the fact that they didn't say no. Xu Fan didn't say anything, and Yanlingji did the same. She never cared about other things. All she cared about was the man around her, the man she would never leave in her life. So, did you think about the name of this organization? Purple Girl Qianshin Isho. I named him Quicksand. Oh, what's the meaning? It sounds pretty good. Xu Fan, Vivi Isho, said. The law of heaven and earth is not slack in execution. I want to build a brand new Korea, a Korea without Jiwuya and Anping Junlongchen. Brother Wei Zhuang, do you still remember the gold coin game at the general's mansion a few days ago? Han Fei looked at Wei Zhuang. Wei Zhuang looked at him, and although he didn't speak, he had already given the answer. In this world, there are too many third-type people who seem to have the upper hand, but are actually doomed to death, and the second-type people who get a little bit of petty to survive. And what South Korea wants is the first category, people who have everything under control. The world of 7 kingdoms, I want 99. For the first time, Han Fei revealed his ambitions. His words fell in the ears of Wei Zhuang, Xinu and others, which also surprised the two Vivi. They were curious as to why Han Fei had such self-confidence. You must know that the world is divided into 7 points, and South Korea is the smallest country in the 7 kingdoms, and its strength can be said to be the weakest. But he wants 99 of the whole world. Say he is arrogant, Han Fei still has a little ability, but his ability is not enough to hold the world in his hands. But there is something called hope. Maybe Han Fei's words sound a little arrogant, but it does make Vivi's heart move. So, your decision. Han Fei finished speaking, Vivi Isho, looking around the crowd. You should know that the purpose of my return to South Korea is to torture Jiwuya to death. If you want to eradicate him, just leave it to me, so I will join. Xu Fan was the first to express his position. It doesn't matter whether he joins or not, but since Han Fei invited him, he must have joined. After all, the two have good personalities and are good friends. After all, both of them belong to the kind of people who are sometimes funny and optimistic. Of course, the main thing is that they have one thing in common, that is, they are smart enough. And after Xu Fan's statement, the second one was Yanlingji. Since Xu Fan has joined, she must also join. Of course, her joining is more of a fun. Then Wei Zhuang and Xinu also joined. Both of them have their own ideas about what Han Fei said about rebuilding Korea. Wei Zhuang finds it interesting. As for Xinu, he likes that his sisters can live in a better country. If this country is Han Fei to control, then she will be more willing. After all, she knew Han Fei's character well. After getting Jade, he naturally joined the Quicksand organization. By the way, Brother Han, I have someone I can recommend to you. Xu Fan said again after everyone agreed to join. Han Fei's expression on Vivi moved, and he immediately understood who Xu Fan was going to say. You're talking about your nephew Zhang Liang. Yes, Lianger has a gentle personality, is careful, and likes to use his brain. It is a good choice to have him by your side. Follow me. You should know that Ji Wuya has always wanted to kill me. If it wasn't for the purple girl yesterday, I would be in danger. If you let him follow me, you won't be afraid of what happens to him. There are inevitable trials and tribulations in life. I can't protect him for a lifetime. He needs his own experience, and I plan to teach him both kung fu and self-defense. Oh, then I don't know if Brother Zhang can teach me both hands. Although my master knows martial arts, I didn't let him teach me when I was learning the art. Now it seems that it is not good. Hearing Shu Fan's words, Han Fei's eyes moved suddenly. He is very clear about Shu Fan's strength. If Shu Fan is willing to teach him both hands, he will not be a master, but he can still protect himself. End of this chapter. Chapter 188 by Yifei returns to the city 3 more. Teach you both hands. But at your age, even if you have good talent, it is difficult to become a top master. Shu Fan really didn't say anything nonsense. At Han Fei's age, the roots have already matured and fixed, and it is very difficult to reform again. That's why you should practice martial arts as early as possible. You don't need to be top-notch, as long as you can temporarily protect your own safety. Besides, isn't there still you? In case of danger, I just need to be responsible for avoiding it. Han Fei Vivi Isho. That's fine, but you're old, and it's estimated that you will have to endure hardship by then. Just don't tell me about it. Han Fei was speechless when he heard the words. What do you mean he is old? He is only 19 years old, okay. Not even Shu Fan. However, Xinu was amused by Shu Fan's words. He found that Shu Fan and Han Fei were very serious when they were serious. But it was precisely those words that made him listen to the closeness, and the distance unknowingly narrowed. Wei Zhuang just looked at Han Fei, and then left directly. He likes to be alone, and quiet occasions are suitable for him. Quicksand had already joined anyway, so there was no need for him to stay here. Negotiations and actions are not something that will take place in a short period of time. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. In the general's mansion, Ji Wuya was sitting in the first seat with a gloomy face. In the past, he always had beautiful women by his side, but today, he didn't, and he didn't even drink his favorite wine. Just because he has been troubled by things these days. The fact that Shu Fan gave Lu Yi's head as a gift has caused him a lot of shadows. Every time he sleeps in the past few days, Lu Yi's face will appear in his dreams, and he keeps telling him, "General, when are you come with me?" He wakes up scared every time. In addition to embarrassing him with Zhang Kaidi and Han Fei's alliance, his mood naturally couldn't be much better. But it was handed over to Nightfall to find out who sent the head that night, and it was completely impossible to find out why. It can only be judged based on what Moya experienced that day. The martial arts of the incoming person is extremely high. Not only is the speed extremely fast, but also the whole body is as hard as black iron, and he can also perform illusions. If it is not because of his belief in Moya, Ji Wuya would even doubt it. Moya deliberately named such a person. The whole body is as hard as black iron, the speed is fast, and he knows illusions. Is this person a monster? However, such people do exist in the world. The whole body is as hard as black iron, which reminds Ji Wuya of Wei's armored gate. Speaking of which, he has quite a relationship with Wei Jiamen, because his grandfather was a disciple of the armored door, and his Ji family's hard skills and unique skills came from the armored door. I have been to Wei State, but I still have some understanding of Jiamen. However, the armored gate of Wei State is not a super big faction, and it cannot be compared with that of the Taoist Yin-Yang family. Although there are also extremely terrifying masters who practice hard work, he has never heard of people who are also extremely fast. A person is invincible with hard work and extremely fast. Does such a person really exist in this world? After all, hard gong is extremely difficult to practice, and once you practice hard gong, you have to practice day after day without interruption, which also means that hard gong people don't have much time to practice light gong swordsmanship and the like. After all, without that world, once both sides spend experiences, the final result is that both sides are not, and nothing is practiced well. After all, the reason why a genius is because he is rare, and it is difficult for ordinary people to appear one person. This is called a genius. And how many geniuses are there in the world? As perverted as Shu Fan, how many can there be? It is precisely because he has never been able to find out who the murderer is, that Ji Wuya is so troubled. On Han Fei's side, he has already planned to use extraordinary means. Because of Shu Fan, Tian's is still the Prince of Baiyu, so it is impossible for them to arrest him. But they have other means to deal with Han Fei. After all, although Han Fei is a prince, compared with the favored prince and Han Yu, Han Fei doesn't take it seriously at all. No. He wanted to kill Han Fei, very simple. Of course, this is what he thinks, but whether it is actually the case or not, he has no idea at all. But Ji Wuya didn't decide to kill Han Fei in the end, because he didn't have time now. Shu Fan's problem has not been clarified yet. Where does he have time to take care of Han Fei's matter? Han Fei can solve it anytime, because he didn't take Han Fei seriously at all. Even though Going was taken back by Han Fei, Ji Wuya still didn't take Han Fei in his eyes. What he wanted to find out most was who killed Lu Yi, who was hiding in the dark and behaving badly towards him. Matter. An enemy on the surface, never an enemy behind the scenes, will bring him more fear. If he doesn't find out who is doing bad things behind his back, he can't sleep all day, not only him, but also the Emerald Tiger. Just when both of them were looking sad, a blood-red figure came in from the outside. What happened? Tell me. Bai Yifei had been out on a mission for the past few days and was not in the city. He had just returned to Xinjiang when Ji Wuya came to him. Up to now, he has not done anything. Knowledge. Lu Yi is dead, Ji Wuya said solemnly after glancing at Bai Yifei. Bai Yifei was stunned when he heard the words, and then his sword brows wrinkled, and Vivi's originally white face sank. Although Lu Yi was not his subordinate or one of the 4 murderers, he represented his face at night. What the hell is going on? Bai Yifei asked, the doubts in his heart. Ji Wuya heard the words and told Bai Yifei everything that happened in Xinjiang City recently. You mean, Zhang Yun is not dead? Those goings were also taken back by Han Fei. Yeah, Ji Wuya nodded. Bai Yifei deliberately scolded a rubbish, but in the end he couldn't say it. After all, Ji Wuya was his boss. The person who killed Lu Yi didn't find out anything. It seems that this matter still has to be handed over to the squatter. As for Han Fei, find a chance to solve him. Since the Zhang Yun of the Zhang family has no to die, then let him die once. But, let who do it? Don't worry, this time I went out and caught a lot of people on the battlefield. I believe they will be useful, Bai Yifei said with a grin on his handsome face. Can you find us through them? Don't worry, I caught them myself, and only my personal soldiers know. That's good, whether it's Han Fei or that Zhang Yun, I don't want to see them in Xinjiang City. Don't worry, even if you want to see them in the future, it will be difficult. Bai Yifei, Vivi Isho, then turned and left. End of this chapter. Chapter 189 _ Action at night again, 4 more. The establishment of quicksand went very smoothly, but after the establishment of quicksand, not a single operation was carried out, because Shu Fan was carrying out special training for Han Fei and Zhang Liang. Hurry up, yes, hurry up. Shu Fan held a long stick and waved it from time to time, and in front of him stood Han Fei and Zhang Liang. It wasn't that they fell, but Shu Fan's pumping. If you want to practice a good qigong, you need to keep exercising, and at the same time taste what pain is. Shu Fan didn't come here too much. However, his experience was much shorter than that of normal people. After all, he was a genius. Shu Fan found Han Fei and Zhang Liang like this to make them more balanced, so that they can run faster. As for the wounds on their bodies, since there was an ointment personally prepared by Shu Fan, the wounds on the 2 of them could not last even a day. At the same time, Shu Fan also taught the 2 of them a type of exercise. Of course, this exercise is not from the Yin-Yang family, but from the Taoist family. Compared with the yin-yang family's exercise, the Taoist exercise is easier to practice and more suitable for two people. Coupled with Shu Fan's assistance from the side to help them open up their meridians, although it was only 10 days, they had already crossed the ordinary people's 3 or 4 years of penance. Opening up the meridians is not difficult for an expert in Shu Fan's realm. If he can't even do this, then what kind of master is he? After getting through the meridians, the two also gained a lot of internal strength in their bodies. In addition, Shu Fan taught them the movement skills and some boxing skills. Although the two did not say that they would become masters directly, they could still beat 10 ordinary people. And to escape, the speed is completely enough. As for the rest, they need their own practice day after day. Shu Fan can't help them. As for refining the pills for them, Shu Fan didn't think about it, but the problem is that there are no medicinal materials, and Shu Fan does not have the pill furnace that refines the pills. How can he refine it? It is extremely difficult to build a pill furnace. When Shu Fan was in Qin state, Liu Bei spent his gravity to build the pill furnace, but that was because Qin state was strong, and Liu Bei was so powerful that Ying Zheng had no power. So he can help Shu Fan build a brand new alchemy furnace. But Han Fei doesn't have this ability, not to mention that South Korea's nationality is insufficient, not to mention that Han Fei's identity is only a prince, not a king of Han. Therefore, Shu Fan could not possibly help them refine the medicine pill. After a day of training, Han Fei found Shu Fan. "Brother Zhang. What's wrong?" Shu Fan said after glancing at Han Fei, who stopped him. "Brother Zhang, have you noticed what's wrong with the atmosphere in the city recently?" "No, I don't feel anything wrong." Shu Fan was stunned. "You're not being followed by someone, right?" Shu Fan suddenly thought of something, smiling Isho. "Brother Zhang is really predictable. These few days, I always feel that someone is following me secretly." "It's right that someone is following you. This shows that Ji Wuya has begun to value you, so we can also start the next step." Shu Fan VV Isho. 2 days ago, he also felt that someone was following him, so Shu Fan made a special flaw, and then the person who followed him came out. A bald man with tattoos on his body, which only people who have been in prison can have, and Shu Fan felt a chilling air from the other side, which is only owned by people who have been on the battlefield. A murderous aura. Then, the bald man died. But it's normal. It's not good to follow anyone, so he came to follow Shu Fan. Isn't this courting death? Even if Shu Fan thought about it, he could know that the people who sent people to kill him must be Ji Wei's gang. Moreover, Bai Yifei also returned to Xinjiang a few days ago. Shu Fan felt that he was the most likely. The person who came to assassinate him was probably caught by Bai Yifei from the battlefield. Because the other party is not Korean, from his clothes, Shu Fan feels that he is more like someone from the country of Yan. When Shu Fan traveled around the world before, he visited the 4 directions, and Yan Kingdom had also been there, and he was no stranger to Yan Kingdom's clothing. So he expected that the one who sent someone to kill him should be Bai Yifei. What's the next plan? Han Fei was puzzled. Let our enemies be more afraid. When invisible hands in the dark grab them, the suffocation will make them more afraid. Shu Fan VV Isho. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. Night falls slowly. Another moonless night. It's not indecent to come and go. Since Bai Yifei gave them a big gift, why should he pay them back? There is no moon in the sky, dark clouds cover the sky, it is the murder night. However, Shu Fan's target was not Bai Yifei, nor Ji Wuya, but the Jade Tiger, one of the 4 fierce generals. This guy is Ji Wei's financial officer in a certain sense, and he is also Ji Wei's most capable assistant. He is an admiral army. Why is he so prestige in the army? The order of a dignified prince of a country is not comparable to an admiral army, which shows Ji Wei's prestige in the army. And why does he have such great prestige in the army? A large part of them are willing, it is because of the Jade Tiger. With the strong financial support of the Emerald Tiger, Ji Wuya has a lot of money to reward his subordinates. When the money is obtained by them, why would they not respect and love Jiwuya? After all, Han Wongan was often unable to pay his army salaries. Even if he did, the money would be averaged out. Even for centurions and thousand commanders, the army salaries would not be enough to use at all. It was all spent in a few moments, and Jiwuya was never stingy with rewards for his cronies, which was why he was so prestige in the army. And his huge financial resources all come from the Jade Tiger. This guy has opened more than one tavern and inn in Xinjiang City. In addition, in other cities in South Korea, Jade Tiger's Inn and Fengyu occasions are also open like fire, and those who come to Xinjiang are also open. Most of the merchants who come here do business with the Jade Tiger. Sell things to Jade Tiger. Jade Tiger is selling it to people in Xinjiang City at a higher price. Then he bought some things from Xinjiang that were not available elsewhere, sold them to those merchants at a high price, and asked them to take them back. And he himself reaps huge benefits from it. It can be said that this guy is very good at business, and with GY's protective umbrella on it, it is difficult for him to lose money. And what Xu Fan has to do today is to remove GY's powerful arm from him. Xu Fan wanted to see, without the support consortium of Jade Tiger, would Jiwuya run to beg for food. P.S. I recommend the book of the Dog Thief Hell, traveling through the daily life from the Super Seminary. Don't ask me why. This dog thief asked me to recommend it, but his book is really good. I chased it before, because the update was too slow. I haven't been chasing it anymore. It seems to have 1.9 million words now. If you don't have a book to read, you can read it. End of this chapter. Chapter 190 _ Death of the Emerald Tiger. 2 Mansion is the residence of the Emerald Tiger. Jade Tiger's original name is Tu Qianjin. Few people know his real name, and only know his surname too. Because Jade Tiger is bloated and ugly, he looks like a hungry tiger when he is vicious. Hence the name Emerald Tiger. And Jade Tiger also likes others to call him that, and as time goes by, few people know his real name. Inside the mansion, Jade Tiger was serving his 2 beautiful concubines, watching people dance while eating and drinking. Because of Lu Yi's incident, there were many more guards in the Emerald Tiger's mansion, and Jiwuya was also afraid that the Emerald Tiger would also have an accident, so he pulled more than 100 people from the army and went to his mansion to guard. There was no accident for more than 10 days, and Jade Tiger slowly became relieved, and his originally uneasy heart gradually calmed down. It can be seen from the fact that he is still in the mood to drink and watch dance. He just didn't know why. He felt a little uneasy for no reason in his heart, but he couldn't tell what the uneasiness was. In the end, I couldn't understand. Emerald Tiger just regarded him as he was scared recently, and thought too much. Outside the house, Xu Fan once again turned into a ghost judge and traveled in the 2 mansion. He was like a ghost, walking in and out of the mansion, and the soldiers guarding all corners did not notice the ghost judge in the dark at all. Even if Xu Fan walked past them, they would feel like a gust of wind was blowing. No surprise at all. Master, does the dance of the slaves and servants look good? Inside the house, the Emerald Tiger's concubine said. Good looking and good looking. Looking at the big white legs that were close at hand, the Jade Tiger couldn't wait to press her directly under him and gallop for a while. Come on, let me touch and see if you've grown bigger recently. Oh, I hate it. The concubine heard the words and said coquettishly, but she was not slow at all, and she fell directly into the Emerald Tiger's arms. Emerald Tiger hee isho, his hands immediately hugged the concubine's round buttocks, feeling the perfect touch from his fingertips. Emerald Tiger suddenly moved Vivi's lower body and planned to come to a live erotic palace. But in the next second, the beautiful concubine in his arms turned into a blood-soaked savage ghost in his eyes. The Jade Tiger was frightened and pushed the concubine out of his arms. Oops. Master, what's wrong with you? Why did you push the slave house away? The concubine was pushed out violently and fell to the ground. She said in pain. Emerald Tiger took a closer look. Where is there any female ghost? The one who just pushed out is clearly his beautiful concubine, and even the other concubine on the side was puzzled, and didn't understand what happened to Emerald Tiger. Yes, sir, what's the matter with you? Why did you suddenly push away Sister Binger? Asked by his two concubines, Jade Tiger himself didn't understand why he suddenly pushed his concubine away. No, nothing, maybe I just had hallucinations. Emerald Tiger also looked puzzled. I just think that maybe it's because I haven't rested well in the past few days, which has led to mental problems. How can ghosts really exist in this world? But just as he thought about it, the next second, he suddenly found that the light in his room was off. The whole world turned into darkness. Who turned off the lights? Binger, Honganiang, where are you guys? Where are you guys? Looking at the dark sky, Jade Tiger's face was full of horror. In the eyes of Jade Tiger's two concubines, Jade Tiger suddenly froze in place, and the eyes lost their emptiness, as if they were stupid. No matter how the two of them swayed him and shouted, the Emerald Tiger just didn't move. Master, Master, what's the matter with you? Master, don't scare us. Seeing the Emerald Tiger froze in place, his two concubines were also afraid. No matter what the Emerald Tigers were, they were the only one they could rely on. The two weak women, apart from their looks, had no ability at all. If something happened to the Emerald Tiger, their future life would definitely not be much better. What they didn't notice was that outside the house, a pair of eyes hidden in the dark were watching all this secretly. The owner of these eyes was none other than Shu Fan. The reason why the Emerald Tiger appears in the illusion is that Shu Fan has always been a ghost. For him, the illusion can be activated without anyone looking into his eyes. Only an uneducated illusionist needs someone to look at his eyes to activate it. For Shu Fan, as long as he wants to, he can directly affect the other party's brain, thereby affecting the other party's sensory nerves. The last time I killed Lu Yi and brought his head to Ji Wuya, it was to give Ji Wuya a warning, but this time, killing the Jade Tiger would not have to be so troublesome. As long as this guy is dead, that's enough. He believed that Ji Wuya would know that he did this. Taking one last look at the Jade Tiger, Shu Fan left the two mansion. As for what happened next, he no longer cared. Presumably, the news of the Jade Tiger's death the next day would definitely reach his ears. After a night of silence, the next morning, Shu Fan had just finished taking a shower and was having breakfast with Yan Lingji, when Han Fei came over excitedly. I said, can you not come here so early every day? Believe it or not, you won't even be able to enter this door next time. Looking at Han Fei who came early in the morning, Shu Fan said angrily. Haha, isn't this something urgent to tell Brother Zhang? When I'm happy, I'm in a hurry. Hearing Shu Fan's words, Han Fei knew that maybe Shu Fan could really do it, and quickly explained with a smile. When the words were closed, Han Fei said with seriousness on his face. Last night, Jade Tiger died in his house. Through his two concubines, he learned that Jade Tiger was standing there by himself, and then finally died. The Imperial Doctor identified the body and concluded that he was killed by terrified. Brother Zhang, with all due respect, you did this. I know you're still asking. Shu Fan glanced at Han Fei speechlessly, but instead of denying it, he directly admitted it. It's been more than 10 days since that guy Ji Wuya, and I guess he almost forgot the big gift I gave him that day. If I don't give him a little more, he probably thinks that I don't exist anymore. What's more, you want to see the death of the Emerald Tiger more than I do. Brother Zhang, I didn't understand why I didn't understand. Han Fei was stunned and laughed. Don't pretend to be confused. What is in your heart? I know very well. The Jade Tiger is the source of GY's funds. Without the Jade Tiger, Ji Wuya has no money to reward his soldiers. Even if you want to mutiny, you can't do it, and I don't believe it's not something you don't want to see. Han Fei was embarrassed by Isho, but he didn't explain anything. He was acquiescing to Shu Fan's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 191_GY's actions. By the way, Brother Zhang, I have one more thing to tell you. Shu Fan heard the words, but just lowered his head to eat without saying a word. Han Fei knew that Shu Fan was listening, so he continued, yesterday I met my fourth brother Han Yu in the palace, and he asked me to tell you that he wanted to invite you to him. Gather at the house. Han Yu, my fourth brother, and I did it for no reason. Why did he invite me? Shu Fan was also taken aback when he heard that Han Yu wanted to invite himself. It is estimated that he intends to convince you that it may not be necessary for you to be his disciple. Han Fei Hei Isho. Han Yu's invitation to Shu Fan is nothing more than to win over Shu Fan. Although Shu Fan has never made a move in front of others, Han Fei knows about the brewing formula of Purple Girl Orchid wine in order to win over Shu Fan. Han Yu is not a fool. Han Fei likes Shu Fan's help so much. He naturally knows that Shu Fan is not simple. Moreover, Shu Fan is still from the Zhang family, and his uncle is Zhang Kaidi. If you get to know Shu Fan, not only you can win over Shu Fan, and you can also win over Shangguofu, why not do it? But Han Fei knew that it was impossible for Han Yu to win over Shu Fan. Because Shu Fan was someone who even Lu Bawei couldn't win over. What's more, Shu Fan was even more of a quicksand now, and he was his companion, so how could he be attracted by Han Yu? Okay, then you can tell me and your fourth brother a message and say I'm not available. Okay. Han Fei was not surprised at Shu Fan's answer. If he agreed to Han Yu's invitation, he might be even more surprised. By the way, in Liyuan this afternoon, there is a play by Zhao Guo's most famous haiku actor, called The Meeting of Wushan. Is Brother Zhang interested in going to see it? Han Fei was not talking about other things, but speaking of the afternoon schedule. After all, Guren's girl has been arguing for him to take her to the show, and he felt bored with just the few of them, so he planned to call Shu Fan together. Shu Fan didn't speak when he heard the words, but looked at Yan Lingji who was beside him. Whispered softly, "Are you going to see it?" Yan Lingji heard the words and looked at Shu Fan and said, "If you go, then I will go. If that's the case, then let's go there in the afternoon. It's boring to stay in this courtyard every day. It's better to go out for a walk." Shu Fan nodded, and then said to Han Fei, "If that's the case, then I'll leave first, and I'll have someone pick you up at noon." After speaking, Han Fei left with a smile. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. Boom. In the general's mansion, a fine sandalwood table was directly smashed into two halves by G.Y.'s fist. Mo Crow below bowed his body and did not speak. Early this morning, he received news from Mo Ya that the Emerald Tiger had died. If it is said that Lu Yi's death is just some skin trauma to him, the pain of being slapped in the face. So the death of the Emerald Tiger was completely painful to Ji Wuya. Jade Tiger and Lu Yi are different. Although they are both confidants, Ji Wuya cares more about Jade Tiger, not only because Jade Tiger is one of the 4 murderers, but also because Jade Tiger is his money bag. It can be said that the death of the Emerald Tiger means that his money is gone. Not to mention that Ji Wuya usually spends a lot of money, he also needs a lot of money to win over the sergeants in the army, otherwise why would he secure his position in the Admiral Army? Cha, I don't care what method you use, I must find out the murderer and investigate at all costs. Yes. Mo Ya nodded and ordered to retreat. After Mo Ya retreated, G.Y.'s complexion still did not improve in the slightest. Ji Wuya didn't feel sullen for a long time, and a figure walked in from outside. It was Bai Yifei. "It's funny," he said a few days ago that he wanted to put eye drops on Shu Fan and Han Fei. As a result, there was nothing wrong with them. On the contrary, there was no news about the dead servant he sent. No matter how stupid he was, he knew. It must have been unsuccessful and was removed. For the first time, he really started to take Shu Fan seriously. Perhaps the returned Zhang Yun was not as simple as they thought. Just when he was going to continue playing the underhand trick, the news of the Jade Tiger's death came. He did not hesitate at all, and ran directly to the general's mansion from his own house, without stopping at all on the way. Compared with Lu Yi's death, Jade Tiger's death was obviously more serious. Moreover, Jade Tiger's death also indirectly represented that the other party was really fighting against them. Lu Yi and Jade Tiger were only the second, and he and Ji Wuya might also be on the others' list. This is definitely not good news. Moreover, With the death of Emerald Bay, he believed that Ji Wuya would have something big. The Jade Tiger is Ji Wai's purse, and if Ji Wai's purse is moved, it is completely the enemy of life and death. What are you going to do? Seeing Ji Wuya, Bai Yifei said directly. Cha, no matter who that person is, I must find him and kill him. Good. Hearing this, Bai Yifei turned around and left. From entering to leaving, it only took more than 10 seconds. Bang! Outside the house, there was a thunderstorm, and the drizzle suddenly drifted. Just like a little embellishment that God has given to the world, it has become extraordinarily cold. On the street leading to Lee Garden, 3 or 2 carriages were driving slowly. On the carriage at the front, the curtains of the carriage were pulled away, revealing a cute and small face, which was Han Wanggen's jewel, Princess Gurren. Oh, I really hate it. When I came out to watch the show, I encountered a heavy rain. People are wearing skirts today. I guess they will get wet again. And next to Princess Gurren, sitting next to Han Fei in purple. After leaving Xu Fan's mansion, he went to Zilanzan to invite Wei Zhuang, Xinu and others, but they all refused. In their words, the occasion was not suitable for them. That's why only he and Gurren, Xu Fan and Yan Lingji, plus Zhang Liang, were the only ones who came to watch the show. And Xu Fan and Yan Lingji were in the third carriage. The carriage drove for another 3 or 4 minutes, and finally stopped. Sir, Li Yuan is here. When Xu Fan and the others got off the carriage, there were quite a few carriages standing on both sides of the road. Even on a rainy day, they still couldn't stop the so-called dignitaries from watching the show. And Xu Fan had already taken out the oil umbrella and opened it. Although Yan Lingji's height is also more than 1 meter 7, but in front of Xu Fan, who is nearly 1 meter 8, Yan Lingji still looks a little small. The two of them are under the same umbrella, and it is exactly 2 4-character words, a talented man and a woman, made in heaven. As for Han Fei and others, they had already given others to use umbrellas. As for Zhang Liang, they could only do it for themselves. Brother Zhang, Ovary, let's go in. Han Fei shouted from the front, and then took the lead and walked towards Lee Garden. And Xu Fan and Yan Lingji followed behind and walked in. End of this chapter. Chapter 192 Li Yuan watching a play. When the 5 people walked into Lee Garden, there were already people coming and going in Lee Garden, at least 200 or 300 people. Even on a rainy day, it was hard to resist the enthusiasm of these people to come to the show. Oh, brother, why did you just open the umbrella? Their new skirts got wet. Gurren complained to Han Fei immediately after entering the pavilion in the garden. Ah, is there any? I didn't say no, see for yourself, isn't this wet? Gurren said, pulling up the edge of his long skirt. As a straight man, Han Fei suddenly took the topic to the other side. By the way, isn't your group the same as yesterday? Where's the new skirt? Xu Fan and Zhang Liang looked at each other. A helpless smile flashed on their faces. Obviously, Han Fei was going to be unlucky. Sure enough, Gurren's arrogant character exploded with Han Fei's words. Then, Han Fei was scolded well, saying that he didn't care about her sister or something. Anyway, Han Fei was said to be speechless. He could only think of Xu Fan and Zhang Liang for help. Of course, he asked for help with his eyes. But he didn't dare to ask for help directly, otherwise his pampered sister would definitely have other petty tempers. Okay, Gurren, your brother did it on purpose. He actually saw that you were a new dress, and he also bought you a few beautiful dresses and put them where I am, ready to give you one. Surprise. Seeing Han Fei's look of help, Xu Fan immediately said with a funny smile. Really, Gurren, a young girl who was not very involved in life, easily believed Xu Fan's words. Of course it's true. I can't help but lie to you. If you don't believe me, you can pick it up with us after you finish watching the movie. Hearing Xu Fan's words, Gurren felt relieved and stopped complaining immediately. Han Fei could only helplessly show a wry smile. He didn't know when he bought Gurren where the masses put Xu Fan. It is estimated that Xu Fan bought a new dress for Yan Lingji. Thinking of this, he probably owes Shufan another favor. Then everyone walked directly towards the Lee Garden. Along the way, Shufan's 5 handsome men and beautiful women are naturally very eye-catching. There are no obscure people who take the initiative to seek trouble. After all, Han Fei is standing there. Even if he is not favored, he is a prince, and they cannot afford to offend him. What's more, Shufan has been walking with Han Fei frequently in the past 2 weeks. If you ask a little about it, you will know that Shufan is a member of the Zhang family and a disciple of the Shangguo mansion. Whoever has nothing to do will easily offend him. But just when a few people were about to go in and sit down, a voice suddenly came in from outside. Hu Marin is here. Han Fei's footsteps suddenly stopped. Hu Marin is here too. Han Fei was surprised. Hu Marin is a concubine of his father, Han Longan, and she is quite favored. She is the sister of Mrs. Hu, the wife of Lu Yi. It's that vixen again. Unlike Han Fei's reaction, Guren's face was unhappy. She didn't like this Hu Marin at all, because in her opinion, Hu Marin took away her father's favor from her, which made her very unhappy, especially Hu Marin's dress. Of course, if you hate someone, you don't need so many reasons. Only when you hate him, everything about him is the reason for you to hate him. And Guren is like that. Then, under the watchful eyes of several people, a graceful woman in a pink robe walked in. Behind her followed 2 maids in cyan robes. After Hu Marin came in, she noticed Han Fei and others at a glance. After all, handsome men and beautiful women are very attractive no matter where they stand. Afterwards, he walked directly towards Han Fei, Shufan and the others. Ninth young master, I didn't expect you to like listening to the show too. Vivi bowed, and Hu Marin said with a decent expression. It's Guren who likes it, Han Fei, Vivi Isho. Yo, these 2 are the 2 sons of Zhang's residents, right? Hu Marin's eyes quickly fell on Shufan and Zhang Liang. Of course, it was more about Shufan. In a certain sense, Shufan's handsomeness must be above Han Fei's. Coupled with Shufan's extraordinary temperament, it is very attractive. Standing next to Han Fei, Shufan's aura does not drop at all, even stronger. Beautiful Hu, Shufan and Zhang Liang were both Vivi Ishos, and they didn't bow. Hu Marin didn't care either. You are Zhang Yun. Hu Marin looked at Shufan and said. Shufan was stunned. He didn't expect Hu Marin to know about him, but when the other party asked, he couldn't possibly say no. It's down here that Hu Marin knows me. I don't know you. I just met you for the first time, but I heard Han Fei's 4th brother said about you, saying that you are handsome and the most outstanding talent in the 2nd generation of the Zhang family. 4th brother, why is he with you? Oh, your 4th brother is my bodyguard in your father's name, and protects me to watch the show. Then why didn't you see anyone else? Han Fei asked in confusion. 9th brother. As soon as Han Fei's words fell, a full-fledged voice came from the entrance. I saw a man in his 30s walked in from the door. It was Han Fei's 4th brother Han Yu. 4th brother. Look, your 4th brother is not here, Hu Marin said with a smile. 9th brother, you Siko are very leisurely, and you still have time to listen to the play, but I heard that a lot of people have died recently. Haha, isn't this coming with Guren? No matter how urgent those cases are, it's your 4th brother. Your father has given you such a beautiful job to escort Hu Marin, but you can't see you. It's yours. Not right. Don't talk about it. Your 4th brother and I are also busy, otherwise, how could it be so slow? Guren, I don't know how to shout when I see your 4th brother. Then, Han Yu's eyes fell on Guren. 4th brother, Guren reluctantly shouted. She really didn't like this 4th brother. She always felt that there was too much darkness in Han Yu's heart. You, the 4th brother has called you a dead brother. By the way, this is Mr. Zhang Yunzhang. Then, Han Yu turned his attention to Shufan again. Seeing Han Yu focus his attention on himself, Shufan Vivi nodded. Zhang Yun has seen 4th young master. Although he said that he had seen it, the expression on Shufan's face was not at all respectful. Although Han Yu was unhappy in his heart, there was no expression on the surface. I heard Han Fei say, "You have something to do, don't you?" This ninth son is really right, I do have something to do. After all, this Wuxian meeting, which is the most famous haiku actor in Zhao country, can't be seen anytime. The implication is that you didn't watch the play at all important. Han Yu's face sank suddenly. Shu Fan was completely disrespecting him, and he would offend him to the death. But Shu Fan is indifferent, just a prince, what is there to be afraid of? Could it be that Han Yu can kill him? It really pissed him off, although because of Han Fei, he would not kill him directly. Although he was afraid of Han Yu, Shu Fan still dared to scare him, so he didn't dare to provoke him. Although the two are brothers, they are only half-brothers, and their relationship is not deep. What's more, Han Fei is very clear that he wants to change South Korea. His fourth brother must also be in the way. Not only his fourth brother, his eldest brother His Royal Highness Prince, but also his father King Han Wongan. In the way. The only difference is whether Han Fei will clean them up. Of course, this cleanup is not to kill them, but to take away their rights. End of this chapter. Chapter 193 _ New, guest, visit. But I have to say that Han Yu is still very shrewd. Even if Shu Fan's words made him very angry, his gloomy face turned from cloudy to sunny in an instant. Young Master Zhang is sincere. It is indeed rare to see the Wuxian meeting of Zhao Gao's most famous haiku. Since this is the case, let's stop talking nonsense here. The play is about to start, so let's go first. Hu Marin, let's go. Let's go then. Hu Marin naturally knew that Han Yu had lost face, and was in a hurry to leave here, but without saying anything, she followed Han Yu to the interior of Liyuan. The only thing that surprised her was that Shu Fan dared to offend Han Yu. In her opinion, although Shu Fan is a child of the Zhang family and may have some talents, it is obviously not good to offend a prince. In her opinion, Shu Fan may just look like that, but he has no talent. Yan Lingji has been standing beside Shu Fan calmly. When Han Yu was talking to Shu Fan, she kept looking at Han Yu. Han Yu also looked at her, but she was looking at her with a death-like gaze. After a glance, Han Yu looked away directly. Obviously, he was frightened. This is why Han Yu is so angry. He didn't expect that there was such a beautiful and dangerous woman next to Shu Fan. Brother Zhang, this time you have offended my fourth brother to death. Do you think I'd be afraid of him? Shu Fan turned to look at Han Fei. Han Fei spread his hands, as if you were casual. In his opinion, Shu Fan is unlikely to be afraid of Han Yu, let alone Han Yu. It is estimated that his father, Shu Fan, did not take it seriously. Afterwards, everyone didn't mention Han Yu, and they also followed into Li Yuan's inner courtyard and began to watch the play. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. On the other side, Ji Wuya also mobilized the army immediately, surrounded the entire Xinjiang city, and then sent troops to investigate everywhere in the city. On the other hand, Bai Yifei went to the palace and said something to Mrs. Mingzhu, the trendy banshee among the four villains, and asked Mrs. Mingzhu to control Han Wongan. Because from beginning to end, Han Wongan was controlled by Mrs. Pearl. As one of the four murderous generals, this Lady Pearl could not be just her beautiful skin, her clever brain, and her good illusions. As Mrs. Pearl's cousin, Bai Yifei can do illusions, and it is not easy for Mrs. Pearl to be able to do illusions. Even, Mrs. Pearl's illusion is much stronger than Bai Yifei. Because Bai Yifei is not specialized in illusion, but Mrs. Pearl is mainly in illusion. Since Mrs. Pearl entered the palace, why is she so favored because she is beautiful? This is naturally impossible. After all, there is a saying that behind every goddess, there is a man who makes her want to vomit. No one knows whether Mrs. Pearl was tired of being played by Han Wongan, but he was definitely controlled by Mrs. Pearl's illusion. This is for sure. After all, Han Wongan himself is an ordinary person who knows nothing. Except for his identity as a king, he is nothing. In front of Mrs. Pearl's brilliant illusion, he can't make any waves. At this moment, Bai Yifei had already appeared outside Xinjiang city. In a small river full of reeds, Bai Yifei stood on a raft in the river. He was not alone on the raft, and there was an old man fishing. But you could tell from the tone of his voice that he was at least 40 or 50 years old. The old man is none other than the one of the 4 murderous generals. If it is said that Ji's purse is the Jade Tiger's purse, then Minoike is the Eye of the Night. You should already know what happened in the city these days, right? Yeah, Minoike was still holding his fishing rod without raising his head. I want to know who is behind these people, especially the death of Lu Yi and Jade Tiger. I want to know who did it. I don't have the exact information either. That person's movements are too clean, but I can vaguely find out the identity of that person. Who? Ghost Judge. If I remember correctly, he should be in Qin. The news that Xu Fan was in Qin before was not a secret, and Bai Yifei knew it. Thinking of the battle 10 years ago, he suddenly remembered that the Ghost Judge seems to be capable of hard work, and he is very good at light work. Speaking of Ghost Judge, his most famous battle was the battle between the Han-Chu Alliance and Baiyu. Even after 10 years of his terrifying magic sound, countless people in the world still know about it. And as Bai Yifei, who had personally dealt with him, he was even more aware of how terrible that guy was. Although 10 years have passed, his strength has improved a lot, and it can even be said that he has improved a lot. But even so, he still had no confidence in the Ghost Judge. He didn't feel that the crocodile was joking with him. Ghost Judge is a living person, not a dead person. He secretly left Qin State half a month ago. Not many people know this news, and I am one of them. You mean he came to Korea? Bai Yifei frowned. It's not that he came to Korea, but he is already in Xinjiang. Don't you think that Zhang Yun is very suspicious? A person who should have died has now appeared alive in Xinjiang. I have investigated him. That guy seems to be quiet, but in fact his martial arts are extremely high. The same is true of the woman in red beside him. I have lost many talents to get this news. A person who should have died is still alive at the moment. You say, is it possible that he is a Ghost Judge? Minike said in a shocking death. When Bai Yifei heard the words, his pupils shrank. He thought for a moment, if Xu Fan was really a Ghost Judge, then all these things would be explained clearly. Why did the Ghost Judge want to oppose them 10 years ago? Because the opponent was Zhang Yun. In the past 10 years, he has been traveling abroad and has not returned to Korea. Not long after the news that the Ghost Judge disappeared in the Qin State, Xu Fan returned to Xinjiang, and then the Jade Tiger and Lu Yi died. In addition, he knew from the sky of Moya that the other party was a weird person. Although it was very dark, they could vaguely see that the other party wore a mask. The speed is extremely fast, and the body as hard as black gold can still be seen. The possibility that the other party is a Ghost Judge is very fast. By the way, a woman found me yesterday. What woman? A very strange woman. Maybe you can go and see her, because he named her to see you, and she also brought a lot of people, and she is very strong. What kind of strange woman? Bai Yifei asked curiously. The one that the squatters called it strong. Its strength would not be bad. It's very strange. I am very likely that they are people of that power. What power? The Yin and Yang family. End of this chapter. Chapter 194_. Zilanzan is surrounded. One more. In the city, GY's soldiers and horses had already surrounded Zilanzan. As long as he gave an order, all the soldiers would rush into the Zilanzan. At this moment, there was no one guest in Zilanzan. There were only a group of frightened women. They were all dancers, singers and piano girls in Zilanzan. At this moment, Xinu was standing at the door of Zilanzan, and beside her was Wei Zhuang, who was holding shark teeth and looking cold. As for Nangyu not being in the crowd, she had been sent out to find reinforcements long before Zilanshuan was surrounded. No matter what Ji Wuya wants to do, there are still many singers and dancers in Zilanshuan. As the boss of Zilanshuan, Xinu will naturally not watch them go wrong. If they left, they would have left long ago, and no one could stop them. General G, why did you lead someone to surround me? Lanzan. Looking at Ji Wuya not far away, Xinu asked with a frown. Why did I surround you? Lanzan, you know it yourself. Oh, I know it myself. But now I am full of doubts, but I don't know what the general's so-called I know. Don't be quick to talk there. I know you can speak well, but today, even if you tell me a flower from the sky, all of you have to come with me. I suspect that there have been dozens of deaths in the city recently. It's all about you, Lanzan, so I want to ask you all to go back and talk to me. But based on the general's words, it is concluded that we are suspects. The general is too domineering. Arresting rape in bed, arresting people is dirty. The general wants us to go back with you. Without evidence, we will not agree. What's more, it is the job of a pirate to investigate a case and arrest a suspect. When did the general of the South Korean Admiral Army start to do this kind of thing? Could it be that the general is now listening to the ninth young master? Xinu said sarcastically. I don't have the time to talk to you about this. Ji Wuya wasn't a fool either, so he naturally saw that the purple girl was delaying time. Do it directly. Anyone who resists will be charged with treason, and will be killed. As Ji Yui's voice fell, the soldiers behind him rushed towards Zilanzan. And Moya and Bai Feng didn't know when they appeared behind Ji Wuya, so they charged towards Xinu and Wei Zhuang. Xinu knew that today's battle was inevitable, so she could only delay the time as much as possible until Xu Fan and the others returned. Wei Zhuang seemed to be ready to do it for a long time when Moya rushed towards him. Clang! With a sound of metal strife, the shark tooth came out of its sheath. The body of the sword seemed to roar like a tiger and a dragon roared, and it slashed towards the ink crow. Feeling the oncoming sharp sword energy, Moya's face suddenly tightened, and it turned into a cloud of black mist, and slammed into it. The purple girl trembled with Bai Feng. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. On the other hand, Nangyu quickly arrived at the Lee Garden and found Xu Fan and Han Fei in the Lee Garden. Nangyu, why are you here? Seeing Nangyu appearing in the Lee Garden, Han Fei was a little surprised. He also invited Nangyu before, but Nangyu didn't come, but she came now. Did something happen to Zilanzan? Yeah, Nangyu nodded. When I came out, Ji Wuya had asked the army to surround Zilanchuan. This time I'm afraid it's especially aimed at us. I'm here to rescue the soldiers, you guys hurry up and help Bar. The words behind Nangyu were told to Xu Fan. After all, he still knew who was the strongest here. Xu Fan heard the sound and nodded. It looks like your father should have been controlled by Ji Wuya. Xu Fan glanced at Han Fei. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Linger and I will rush over to save people first, you can take your time. The words fell, and Xu Fan and Yanlingji disappeared directly in front of them in the next second. The speed was so fast that they couldn't even see how Xu Fan left. But Han Fei was not in a hurry. Instead he thought of what Xu Fan had just left. His father was controlled by Ji Yui's people. Xu Fan never told lies, and every time he said anything, it was well-founded, and people had to believe it. This time, too, when Xu Fan said that his father was being controlled, Han Fei knew that he must be controlled. Nangyu, Overy, we don't have to follow. There are Brother Zhang and Miss Yanlingji. They can block Ji Yui's people. You two will accompany me to the palace. My father may really be arrested. People are in control. Han Fei looked at Nangyu and Zhang Liang and said. Nangyu was puzzled for a moment, but nodded anyway. On the other hand, Zhang Liang nodded and agreed. He knew the strength of his uncle. With his strength, no matter how many people there were, Ji Wuya would not be enough to see him. Hey, did you forget me? Gurren, who had been silent for a while, suddenly said. Han Fei suddenly noticed his baby sister. Gurren, you should continue to watch the show here. The three of us are going to the palace. It is not convenient to take you. You will not take it lightly. If we take you together, it will take more time. Time waits for no one. We have to go save the king, do you understand? Gurren is often petty, but the situation is so serious, she still has some sense. Therefore, I didn't make any excessive demands, just nodded. Afterwards, Han Fei and Nangyu Zhongliang rushed directly to the palace. Fortunately, under the guidance of Xu Fan, Zhongliang and Han Fei were pretty good at Qinggong. The speed of the three was not slow, and they quickly arrived at the palace. As for Xu Fan and Yan Lingji, they reached Zilanzan one step faster. In Zilanzan, Wei Zhuang and Moya were still trembling together. Moya used his speed to play kite tactics with Wei Zhuang. Even though Wei Zhuang's swordsmanship was superb, he had no way to do anything for a while. And the purple girl was also entangled by Bai Feng, the world's martial arts, only fast cannot be broken. The internal strength of Bai Feng and Moya may not be as deep as that of Wei Zhuang and Xinu. Even if they fight head-on, they can defeat them within 10 moves, but this is not a head-on battle, both of them are too fast. Once they play kite tactics, they have nothing to do with the two of them. The other women in Zilanzan, except for Nangyu, are basically ordinary women, and most of them have been arrested at this moment. Many timid ones even cried out directly. Xinu, if you capture them without your hands, I'll kill them. Knowing that Bai Feng and Moya might not be able to take down Wei Zhuang and Xinu, Ji Wuya threatened directly. As his words fell, his soldiers immediately put the long knives in their hands on the necks of the girls in Zilanchuan. It seemed that as long as Xinu and Wei Zhuang didn't stop fighting, they would cut them down with one knife. Ji Wuya, I haven't seen you for 10 years, you are still so shameless. Just after Ji Wuya's words fell, the next second, a white figure and a fiery red figure suddenly appeared in Ji Wuya and Xinu, etc. Among people. As if it appeared out of thin air, it startled everyone present. It was Xu Fan and Yan Lingji who came here. Chapter 195 _ Identification 2 more. It's you. When he saw Xu Fan's figure, Ji Wuya's heart jumped for no reason. For some reason, he suddenly felt a little afraid of Xu Fan, and he couldn't even explain why he felt this way. However, his eyes quickly moved to Yan Lingji's body. As a womanizer, Ji Wuya didn't tarnish this title at all, but he still had the mood to look at beautiful women before the war. It is absolutely unique, but this is also related to the beauty of Yan Lingji. Such beauties, even the very charming beauties like Hume and Mrs. Pearl are not comparable. As a South Korean Admiral Army, Ji Wuya can be said to have read countless women, but he has never seen a woman who is more exciting to him than Yan Lingji. However, he hadn't been able to appreciate it for a few seconds. He seemed to have noticed Ji Wuya's sight. Yan Lingji's brows were wrinkled, a trace of disgust flashed in his eyes, and the internal force in his body suddenly flowed out. In the next second, a flame appeared directly in Yan Lingji's hand, and threw it out at Ji Wuya. The speed of the flame group is very fast, but Ji Wuya has been on the battlefield after all, and battles big and small have never been less, and his intuition about danger is still great. When Yan Lingji started, he felt a sudden danger. Therefore, at the moment when the fireball was about to hit him, his two thighs slammed hard, and the whole person jumped off the horse and hid aside. And although he dodged, his horse and the group of people who had just stood beside him were unlucky. The fireball fell on them, like a spark of fire falling on gasoline, and it rose in an instant. A fire tornado appeared directly on the surface, and the group of people who were hit didn't even have time to scream, and they were instantly burned clean. Even those who were not burnt were retreating with fear, because the temperature was too high, and they stood there as if they were being roasted on a fire. And when Yan Lingji started, Xu Fan also started in an instant. There was no obvious movement from him. But in the next second, the soldiers who were holding the daughters of Zilanzan screamed in agony, and then all flew out backwards. It fell to the ground with a bang, and there was a sudden burst of blood. The unlucky ones landed on the ground head first, without even having the chance to vomit blood, they just died. In just an instant, Xu Fan subdued more than 20 soldiers, and the rest of the soldiers were dumbfounded. And Moya and Bai Feng also pulled their hands after Xu Fan appeared and leaned towards Ji Wuya's side. The speed of the two is very fast, and it is not difficult to stay away from the battle. But Wei Zhuang has long held back his anger. Moya didn't fight him head-on, just playing kites with him. Although his movement skills are not bad, he still majors in horizontal swordsmanship, and his movement skills are natural. Can't keep up with Mo Crow. The arrival of Shu Fan distracted Mo Ya's attention for a while, plus he was always looking for opportunities, so the moment Mo Ya backed away, he moved. The speed of that sword was like a cosmic star, passing by in the blink of an eye. Mo Ya's hair exploded, and an unprecedented sense of danger came. At that moment, Mo Ya didn't have the slightest reservation. He knew that if he couldn't escape, he would die. Ya. The next second, Wei Zhuang slashed at Mo Ya's body with a sword, and the sharp sword energy instantly pierced Mo Ya's skin. And Mo Crow's whole person also directly transformed into a group of black crows, flying all over the sky. When he fell to GY's side, there was a long tear in his chest, blood flowed out of his chest, and there were traces of blood on the corner of his mouth. Obviously, Wei Zhuang's sword was seriously injured. Took him. A sword wounded Mo Ya, but Wei Zhuang didn't do anything. It seemed to him that his place had been found. Now that Shu Fan was here, he didn't want to worry about these things. Therefore, he directly inserted the shark tooth into the scabbard, then turned around and walked towards Zilanzan. With Shu Fan here, nothing would happen today. Compared with Han Fei, he has more confidence in Shu Fan. What, G Admiral Army, this game has just started, you don't want to play it. Looking at Ji Wuya, Shu Fan did not start, but Vivi Isho said. And under the comfort of the purple girl, the fearful mood of the girls in Zilanshuan gradually calmed down. Then returned to Zilanzan, where Shu Fan was standing today. Xenu believed that Ji Wuya couldn't do anything to them. General, the person that night should be him. Although Mo Ya was injured, he still recognized Shu Fan. Although Shu Fan wore a mask that day, he was too familiar with Shu Fan's movement, especially the terrifying speed just now. Although he did not see it with his own eyes, for him, he did not need to see it with his own eyes. Feel the wind in the air to detect it. Bai Feng didn't speak, but those eyes were always staring at Shu Fan, full of fear. He is a proud person, and he is very confident in his own light work. In his opinion, the only person in this world who can catch up with him is Mo Ya. But the speed Shu Fan showed that night, let him know what it means that there are mountains outside the mountains, and there are people outside the people. He also told him what the frog at the bottom of the well is. It turns out that the speed is never the fastest, only faster. Compared to Wei Zhuang, his opponent, Xenu, is much easier to deal with. After all, although Xenu's red training sword is a double sword, it is not as terrifying as Wei Zhuang. That's why, compared to Mo Ya, he discovered Shu Fan's light art more intuitively, so fast that even he could only see an afterimage. There was a story, a pilot was on the plane, he suddenly saw a strange thing flying with him, and then he reached out and grabbed him, only to find that the thing turned out to be a flying one. Bullet. When your speed reaches a certain level, you can even grab the light with contempt. And when your own speed is terrifying, then in your eyes, there is no speed at all. But Bai Feng couldn't see Shu Fan's speed at all, which shows how big the gap between their speeds is. What? Ji Wuya was startled when he heard Mo Ya's words. The last thing he wanted happened. He thought about a lot of possibilities, but he didn't expect Zhang Yun to be the masked man. In other words, he didn't want that masked man to be Zhang Yun at all. Little. If Shu Fan is really the masked man, then his troubles will be huge. But the facts are often unsatisfactory, and the more he doesn't want it, the more things develop in that direction. Shu Fan was the masked man who killed Lu Yi and gave him his head. Even the Emerald Tiger was killed by Shu Fan. Moreover, this guy's strength is still very strong, and it may even be the ghost judge. Of course, he can't confirm the news yet. But no matter whether Shu Fan is a ghost judge or not, with the strength Shu Fan has shown now, this guy is a very difficult bone to chew. Bone. Chapter 196_. Ji Wuya is counseled 3 more. Zhang Yun, Lu Yi and Jade Tiger, did you all kill them? But no matter what happened, Ji Wuya had no other way to go. Now he has only one way to go: dark. Going down is the final result. What's more, he wants to gamble that Shu Fan is not a ghost judge. If he is not a ghost judge, then in Xinjiang City, no matter how strong he is, he will not be able to make any waves. After all, there are tens of thousands of people in Xinjiang City. Elite troops. Outside the city, Bai Yifei's white armored army is stationed, and he can be dispatched at any time as long as he needs. What's more, even if Shu Fan was a ghost judge, if he blew the magic sound in Xinjiang City, he would die, but the entire Xinjiang City would also die together, so he didn't believe Shu Fan didn't care. The big deal is that the fish will die and the net will be broken, and they will perish together. Admiral Army, you really know how to joke. My Zhang family is also 3 generations, and I, Zhang Yun, are a disciple of the Zhang family. How could it be possible to do this kind of assassination of officials? Admiral Army, please move before speaking. A brain, an Admiral Army, who said such a brainless word? The soldiers under his hand should not be all idiots. The soldiers are stupid, the generals are stupid, and Admiral's army should not bring all my Korean soldiers to stupid. Hearing Shu Fan's hot and cold ridicule, Ji Wuya suddenly became anxious. The group of soldiers who heard Shu Fan's words also looked ugly for a while, but Shu Fan's strength was too high, plus the fire released by the extremely beautiful woman beside Shu Fan. At this moment, no one would be foolish enough to rush up to find death. Even Ji Wuya didn't dare to act too rashly at this moment. After all, whether it was Shu Fan or Yanling Ji, the combat power they just showed was too terrifying. But he was very unwilling to let him leave like this. After all, he was so flamboyant and even sent troops privately. Once Han Wangan reacted, his fate can be imagined. If Shu Fan and the others can be convicted, they will be his shirk can completely push these things onto Shu Fan and the others. But the problem is that not only can he not catch anyone now, but he also has no evidence at all. Even if Han Wangan is stupid, it is impossible to believe his words. After all, Han Wangan is not a child, so he is not so easy to deceive. General Ji, if you have nothing to do, you should go back first. I am here today, and without evidence, you can't take it alone. Of course, if you want to forcibly take people away, you can also try, but don't blame my subordinates for being ruthless. A ferocious light flashed in Shu Fan's eyes, and the cold killing intent instantly locked onto Ji Wuya. Ji Wuya's heart trembled subconsciously, and an ice cold spread to the bottom of his heart. Even though it was summer in early May, he felt as if he was in the winter solstice, extremely cold. Ji Wuya had the heart to say something cruel, but when he met Shu Fan's eyes, he couldn't say a word for a long time. Shu Fan's eyes were like the snow wolf in the winter night, cold and fierce, and the murderous intent in his eyes made him want to turn around and leave here. Ji Wuya had lived most of his life. He was used to seeing big scenes, but Shu Fan's eyes seemed not to be human eyes, but the eyes of gods, which made him unable to stop being afraid. General, Moya said from the side. Withdraw. Ji Wuya finally gave Shu Fan a vicious look, concealing his inner fear, and said. He didn't blame him for withdrawing, but he knew that if Shu Fan really stopped him, he probably wouldn't be able to take him away, and he would definitely suffer heavy casualties. Although his strength is good, he does not have much confidence in Shu Fan. What's more, with the promotion of power, he has long become afraid of death, and he has not had enough comfortable days. Where would he want to die? He prefers sleeping in a woman's arms. If you lose face for a while, you can just pick it up. He intends to go back and discuss with Bai Yifei about his actions. Now that he was sure that Shu Fan was the one who did it, he would not be in a hurry. Moreover, he intends to bring some people to help. How to say, when those people came to Korea, they also helped him. Now that he is in difficulty, they should not wait for help. Ji Wuya's army came fast and retreated fast. Soon, the street outside Zilanzan returned to its original appearance, with only some bloodstains on the ground, showing what happened here before. Of course, Zilanchuan still wants to do business today. That is impossible. He must not be surprised about GY's retreat. If this guy doesn't retreat, Shu Fan will be surprised. After all, this guy was the fastest on the Bayou battlefield. At the beginning, Shu Fan didn't want to kill them, but after he ran out of ritual souls, it was completely impossible for him to kill them. At that time, there was not much left in his internal strength, and Jiwuya, that guy, even left the army and ran away immediately. A person who cherishes his life so much, why does he not cherish it after 10 years? Even under the corruption of comfortable life, he will become more cherished of his life to enjoy the rest of the time. Young Master Zhang, Miss Yanlingji, thank you very much this time. When Shu Fan and Yanlingji returned to the Zilanzan, Xenu directly greeted them and thanked them. The purple girl is so estranged from me. Besides, shouldn't there be any gifts for thanks? I don't want any expensive gifts. I'll be satisfied with a few jars of good orchid stuffing. Hearing Shu Fan's words, Xenu was also dumbfounded. Shu Fan is very strict when he is strict, and his speech is also very tolerant, but this is lip-smacking, and it is very funny. You're still drinking. I think you're about to become a wine jar. You're not allowed to drink. Who knows? Before the purple girl agreed, Yanlingji spoke first. Shu Fan has been drinking alcohol almost every day these days. The scent of orchid wine on his body is very strong, and he can smell it lightly. It's like being in a wine jar. Okay, don't drink, don't drink. Seeing Yanlingji's cute look of deliberately pretending to be angry, Shu Fan said helplessly. The purple girl also covered her mouth and chuckled, and the nervousness that Jiwuya had created had almost disappeared. It's okay not to drink alcohol, but it's okay to have some food. It's okay to have nothing to do right now. Why don't I cook something for you? The gentleman is far away from the kitchen, this is the Confucian thought. But Shu Fan didn't have this idea at all. As a man, if you don't enter, you need to be able to be both literary and martial, and you have to go to the hall and go to the kitchen. Moreover, Shu Fan also likes the feeling that the things he made are exaggeratedly liked by others. Isn't this what many chefs like? In fact, Shu Fan had the idea of becoming a chef very early, but unfortunately his cooking skills were not very good at the time. Unexpectedly, after the talent became stronger, the cooking skills also improved. Although not as exaggerated as peyoting, Shu Fan's cooking skills are not far behind. Okay, I haven't eaten for a long time. Now after you say that, I'm a little hungry. Vivi Isho said. I'll help you. Yanlingji also followed Isho. Okay, then you help me wash the vegetables. Afterwards, Shu Fanbian and Yanlingji went directly to Zilanshuan's kitchen and started busy for a while. Chapter 197 Identity Disclosure, 4th Update. Please refer to the recommendation ticket as a reward. Not long after, Han Fei brought Nongyu back to Zilanzan. As expected by Shu Fan, Han Wangan was indeed controlled by Mrs. Mingzhu, but perhaps it was because of Han Fei and others. Mrs. Pearl didn't dare to go too far, so she didn't control Wang and Han Fei and the others also met King Han smoothly. As for his old man, Han Fei was really speechless. When they saw Han Wangan, he asked Han Fei why they were looking for him, and then Han Fei was scolded and left the palace. To be honest, Han Fei even had a little doubt about whether he belonged to Han Wangan himself. He was so smart, why did he have such a dull dad? And when Han Fei and the others came back, just in time for the restaurant, Shu Fan had done a lot, so Han Fei and the others ate a fresh meal. As for Shu Fan's cooking skills, there was nothing to say. It's quite good, and it's not bad at all compared to the meals prepared by the chefs in the palace. It's a pity that Shu Fan rarely cooks, and it is a blessing for Sansheng to be able to eat Shu Fan's own cooking. Brother Zhang, as you said, my father was indeed controlled by someone, and I doubt that Mrs. Pearl can do illusions. Don't doubt. Do you think Mrs. Pearl can be one of the 4 villains in the night? Does she have any skills? Men like the new and hate the old, of course, except for me. Shu Fan counted here, not yet. Forgot to stress myself. Everyone was speechless for a while, especially Yanlingji, who gave Shu Fan a white look with her beautiful eyes. Don't you wonder why your father's favorite person has always been Mrs. Mingzhu for more than 10 years? What's more, Mrs. Mingzhu's cousin is Bai Yifei. You think she will be as she looks on the surface. So simple. Quote. Furthermore, Ji Wuya already knew that Lu Yi was killed by me. Now it seems that his revenge will come soon. Brother Zhang, according to your opinion, what should we do next? What else can be done, of course, to eradicate Ji Yu's cancer directly? I originally planned to torture him a little more, but now it seems that it is better to get rid of him directly, which will save a lot of trouble. I think, if I kill both Ji Wuya and Bai Yifei, you should be able to stabilize the situation, right? Shu Fan looked at Han Fei and said. Han Fei did not agree immediately, but pondered for a while before saying, yes. Shu Fan nodded in satisfaction. He continued, remember you told me that you want Ninety-Nine in this world. Now, I want you to give me an affirmative answer. In this world, do you want Ninety-Nine? Shu Fan said seriously. The atmosphere in the whole room changed suddenly. Whether it was Wei Zhuang or Zi Nu, they first glanced at Shu Fan, and then turned their attention to Han Fei. Han Fei was also taken aback by Shu Fan's serious words. Obviously, Shu Fan was asking him to express his position. If the previous Shu Fan did not support him 100%, then at this moment, perhaps as long as he answered Shu Fan affirmatively, Shu Fan would definitely help him 100%. However, after he thought about what he was sure about, what Shu Fan would ask him to do. If he promised Shu Fan, the seat of King Han would definitely not belong to his father. It's his, that's for sure. If a country wants to develop, its king is very important. If King Han is still his old man, Wang En, maybe Shu Fan will leave South Korea after eliminating Ji Wuya. Han Fei can be sure of this. Because in Korea, there is no hope. In other words, there is no hope in Korea under the leadership of his father. A garden that has been completely decayed can only restore its original beauty by removing the rotten roots and leaves in the garden, planting new seeds, and waiting for it to take root and sprout. And the same is true of South Korea now. South Korea is like a garden that has been corrupted. Although it is not completely corrupted, it is almost there. If you want to restore it, you can only solve the problem from the root. But the problem is, Han Wangan is his father no matter what. If Han Fei wants to be the king of Han, it must be impossible to use any soft means. Forcing his father to abdicate, he really can't do this. Can't you make up your mind? Shu Fan looked at Han Fei's thoughtful expression, and knew what he was thinking. If you don't make up your mind, then what you said to us before is just fart. You want Ninety-Nine in the world, but will the other party give it to you? No, you can only go and grab the throne. Will your father give it to you? No, even if he wants to abdicate, he will abdicate to the crown prince, and you, Han Fei, still won't get it. You who have nothing, why do you want Ninety-Nine in the world? I never said that, but in fact, the ghost judges me. Do you know why Lu Bawei wants to win me over? Because I am the ghost judge, because he needs my strength. Shu Fan looked calm. Falling in the ears of other people is like thunder. Of course, except for Yan Lingji and Wei Zhuang among these people. Especially Wei Zhuang, when he heard Shu Fan's words, his face was as calm as usual, and he seemed to have known it for a long time. In fact, he had long guessed that Shu Fan was the ghost judge, the one who had fought against his master in Ghost Valley. In that battle, although Shu Fan was defeated, he was not completely defeated, and how old was Shu Fan at that time? Regarding the strength of his master, Wei Zhuang knew very well that Shu Fan was able to fight with his master hundreds of times before he was defeated, which shows Shu Fan's strength. Now that more than 9 years have passed, he believes that Shu Fan's strength must have been stronger. After all, Shu Fan and his master had a 10-year bet to fight again. And it was only 9 months away from the bet. Compared with Wei Zhuang's clarity and Yan Lingji's understanding, other people don't know Shu Fan's identity at all. Even Zhang Liang was very surprised. There is a lot of news about ghost judges in the arena. It is rumored that this person traveled all over the 7 countries, and he was a hero of righteousness, punishing evil and promoting good. But he is also a murderer. In the Battle of Bayou of the Han-Chu coalition forces, he alone killed 100,000 Han-Chu coalition forces. Deeply feared by the people of Korea and Chu. It can be said that the name Ghost Judge is so scary in Korea that it can stop children from crying. But they never imagined that the Ghost Judge would be a Korean. Everyone was also very surprised why Shu Fan was so strong. Now that he revealed his identity, everyone immediately understood. Turns out he was a Ghost Judge. And Han Fei also has some BB stunt. He once thought that Shu Fan is not simple, and there may be some powerful forces behind it, but he never associates Shu Fan with the Ghost Judge, because it is too impossible. After all, according to rumors, the Ghost Judge is a man in his 40s or 50. But he felt that there was no need for Shu Fan to lie to them. Based on what he knew about Shu Fan, since Shu Fan said about his Ghost Judge, then he must be. End of this chapter. Chapter 198_. Yin and Yang family, one more. At this moment, in the face of Shu Fan's words, he began to carefully consider whether or not to agree to Shu Fan, especially when he thought of the pictures he had seen in his mind. Han Fei couldn't help but begin to doubt whether the so-called destined destiny was true. Facing Han Fei's contemplation, Shu Fan spoke again. Kanglong Kisu, I think you are familiar with these words. Hearing this, Han Fei suddenly raised his head and looked at Shu Fan. Don't be surprised, I know what you have seen through Kanglong Kisu. The law of heaven and earth is actually not unchangeable. Moreover, I forgot to tell you, in fact, I am still a member of the Yin and Yang family. Shu Fan Vivi Isho said without being shocked. I just want to know how many layers of identity you have. Han Fei said speechlessly. No more. Shu Fan waved his hand. The originally dignified atmosphere has eased down again at this moment. I know what you are worried about. The future you see is not necessarily the future. This day, it can be changed. If you can't, it doesn't mean I can't. Shu Fan Vivi Isho. Maybe there is destiny in this world, but because of the Bronze Gate, Shu Fan is not at the mercy of fate. He can change the so-called destiny arbitrarily. Han Fei's fate may have been doomed, but when Shu Fan collided with him, his fate has been changed. Not just Han Fei, Yan Lingji, Zi Nu, Wei Zhuang, Zhang Liang, and everyone else. Fate has been changed. Emerald Tiger, Lu Yi and the others would not have died in Shu Fan's hands, but their fate has become to die in Shu Fan's hands. If Shu Fan hadn't appeared, they would have died the way they were destined. Died in the hands of quicksand, and Ji Wuya will eventually die in the hands of Wei Zhuang. But now, all this has been changed because of Shu Fan. The so-called fate is so fragile in front of the bronze door. Then if I promise you, how are you going to arrange my father? It's not me who arranges him, but how you arrange it. Shu Fan Vivi Isho. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. On the other side, Ji Wuya, who had a gloomy face, walked directly outside the city with the army and continued to stay in the city. He felt that it was not safe enough. He has clearly seen Shu Fan's strength, and it is no longer enough to describe Shu Fan's strength as a pervert. It is so strong that he has no friends, and he will continue to stay in the city if he is stupid. After all, Shu Fan's intrusion that day still left him with grief. As a result, the road was just halfway there, and a group of soldiers from the White Armor Army appeared in his sight. Admiral Army, my general asked you to come with us and said that there are some friends who want to introduce you to you. The leading White Armor sergeant said. Bai Yifei wants to introduce some friends to me. Ji Wuya was taken aback, but he followed them to Bai Yifei's location. Since Bai Yifei said that he is a friend, the identity of the other party will definitely not be simple. Could it be that the person who caught the net is here? With inner curiosity, Ji Wuya quickly met Bai Yifei. Who do you want to introduce to me? Seeing Bai Yifei, Ji Wuya directly asked the doubts in his heart. Don't you know if you go in? Vivi Isho said. Bai Yifei's eyebrows curved. Ji Wuya was full of doubts, and then walked directly to the room behind Bai Yifei. After entering the room, Ji Wuya saw several people in the room at a glance. There were 4 women and 1 man, and the leader was a woman in a bright red robe. On her red robe, there was a 3-legged golden crow embroidered with gold threads. It looks very gorgeous and noble. And the appearance of the woman is also very beautiful, even absolutely beautiful, even if it is not worse than the Yanlingji he had just seen before. On the woman's left, stood 2 veiled teenage girls, whose exposed eyes could tell they were young. But there was a strange danger emanating from him. The clothes of the 2 are also very special, except that the colors are 1 black and 1 white, the chances are exactly the same. As for the right side of the woman, there is a man and a woman. The man should look like 27 or 8. His handsome features are quite handsome, and his face is refined, giving people the feeling of being easy to get along with. And the woman, who looks like 25 or 6, always has a faint smile on her face, and there seems to be tenderness in her eyes. Both men and women are dressed in lavender robes, looking at the style as if they were a pair. Ji Wuya is not someone who has not seen the world. At the first sight of the woman, Ji Yu's face rose with a dignified expression. Even if she was lustful and the woman in front of her was beautiful, he didn't dare to look twice. Because he has recognized their identities. Yin-Yang Home. If the Armored Gate is just an ordinary middle school, then the Yin-Yang family is definitely one of the top schools in the world. In particular, since the establishment of the Yin-Yang family, the reputation in the arena is not very good. It is rumored that these guys, in order to achieve their own goals, use any means, and to say that they are despicable and cunning is considered a small thing. In particular, the mysterious Onmyoji technique really caused headaches for people in the rivers and lakes. Those yin and yang techniques are mysterious, and when they are displayed, they look like immortal techniques, and they are very difficult to deal with. If you are not careful, you will lose. Unexpectedly, the Yin-Yang family found Shin Zhenglai and found him. "You are Ji Wuya," the red-robed woman at the front said when she saw Ji Wuya walking in. Her voice was very cold, as if she had no interest in everything in this world. But the danger in her eyes made people unable to ignore her. "Yes, I am Ji Wuya, you are from the Yin-Yang family, right?" General Ji is indeed well informed. "Yes, we are indeed from the Yin and Yang family." "Then why are you looking for me?" "We are looking for General Ji, of course, for the purpose of cooperation, but before we cooperate, I would like to ask a question." "You said." "I don't know if General Ji knows the ghost judge." The woman finally smiled at this moment. Her smile was very beautiful. Ji Wuya said with certainty that when a woman laughed, her beauty was no worse than that of Yanlingji. However, he was not in the mood to appreciate beautiful women at the moment, but it was the other party's words that made him stunned for a moment. Then he glanced at Bai Yifei beside him. "I think that even now, General Ji still clearly remembers the Battle of Baiyu 10 years ago." "Not bad." Ji Wuya nodded when he heard the sound. In the Battle of Baiyu, Shu Fan's terrifying appearance, he will never forget in his life. 50,000 people, that's a full 50,000 people. How many people died in the hands of Shu Fan? If it weren't for that damn ghost judge, how could he have lost so miserably in the first place? I think General Bai also remembers that battle clearly. After the woman asked Ji Wuya, she turned her attention to Bai Yifei who was beside Ji Wuya. End of this chapter. Chapter 199 Han Fei's Emperor Sword 2 more. Not only do I remember that battle, but I also played against the ghost judge. We know this very well, otherwise we wouldn't be able to find the 2 generals. By the way, I forgot to introduce the 2 of you. My name is Concubine Yan, and in the Yin-Yang family, I am called Dongjun. The one on my left is Yin-Yang Xiao Siming, one of the 6 elders of my Yin-Yang family, and the one on my right is Mr. Shang and his wife, Mrs. Shang Jun, one of the 6 elders of my Yin-Yang family. The woman introduced softly. But what they said shocked both Ji Wuya and Bai Yifei. The 2 of them naturally knew about the strength of the Yin-Yang family. The strongest of the Yin-Yang family is undoubtedly their leader, Dong Huang Tai, this guy who has never seen his true face, but it is rumored that his strength has already broken through to the top of the master, and even has the same identity as the Guiguzi of this generation. Realm. And under Dong Huang Tai, is concubine Dong Junyan, who is known as a genius female disciple of the Yin-Yang family that has been rarely seen for hundreds of years. Of course, whether it is true or not is unknown. But there is no doubt about her strength, and the elders in the Yin and Yang family are all first-class masters in the arena, and they are also very strong when placed on the rivers and lakes. Even if it is a heaven-ranked killer who is caught in the net, it is not bad at all. After all, the strength of the Yin-Yang family has never been weaker since the establishment of the Yin-Yang family, because the Yin-Yang family was separated from the Taoist family. What is the strength of a sect separated from the first-class sect of Taoism? It is even rumored that the patriarch of the Yin-Yang family who separated the Yin-Yang family from the Taoist family is the second Taoist genius after Lao Tzu. Ji Wuya really couldn't understand why these people suddenly came to Korea and asked him if he knew the ghost judge. But respect is still to be given, especially after knowing the identity of the other party. Ji Wuya, I have seen Mr. Dongjun of the Yin-Yang family. Even in his identity as the Admiral Army of Korea, the status of the Yin-Yang family is only under the East Emperor Tai, above the two guardians and the 6 elders. He also had to show his respect. After all, he didn't want to make this big boss of the Yin-Yang family angry. The ghost knows if they have any special hobbies. From G.Y.'s point of view, the people of the Yin-Yang family are all perverts. General G, you're welcome. Now, I have a question for General G. Mr. Dongjun, please tell me. In the Pre-Qin period, even if it was a woman, if you called each other respectfully, it was also called Mr. Just as Gongsun Linglong is called Mr. Gongsun. I know that you and General Bai once fought against the ghost judge on the Baiyu battlefield. It is rumored that he has a purple flute in his hand, which he used on the Baiyu battlefield. I want to know, do you still have that flute? Remember. Bai Yifei and Ji Wuya looked at each other. They didn't understand why Concubine Yan asked this. What is this, sir? Concubine Yan didn't speak, but turned her hand and took out a purple flute out of nowhere. When Bai Yifei and Ji Yu's eyes fell on the flute, they were stunned. If there's one thing they won't forget, it's the ghost judge's mask and the purple flute in his hand. Especially the purple flute, it is so special that everyone who has seen it will deeply remember it in their minds. But at this moment, Concubine Yan took out a flute that was exactly the same as the flute. The same whole body was crystal clear and purple, exuding a crystal-like luster, which was very beautiful. If it is not certain that the ghost judge is a man, or even Shu Fan, they will think that Concubine Yan is the ghost judge. And Concubine Yan is not a fool. After seeing Ji Wuya and Bai Yifei Vv's stunned expressions, she can already be sure that the purple flute in the ghost judge's hand should be exactly the same as the one in her hand. It seems that the flute in the hands of the ghost judge should be exactly the same as the one in my hand. Following Concubine Yan's words, it fell. Bai Yifei and Ji Wuya will also come to their senses. Ji Yuxi nodded, and was also very curious as to why Concubine Yan also had such a purple flute. I think that General Ji and General Bai must be wondering why there is such a flute in the hands of Lord Dongjun. In fact, this flute has been my Yin-Yang family from the very beginning. Mrs. Shangjun suddenly spoke up. We are also very curious why there is a flute belonging to my Yin-Yang family in the hands of the ghost judge. This is also the purpose of our coming to Xinjiang. Hearing Mrs. Shangjun's words, Ji Wuya and Bai Yifei both changed their expressions. Mr. Dongjun, Mrs. Shangjun, I think we may know where the ghost judge is. Although Shu Fan never took out the judge's mask, nor did he take out Giming. But from Shu Fan's stature and his strength, Ji Wuya was already 80% sure that Shu Fan was a ghost judge. If the Yin-Yang family came to trouble Shu Fan, then they could use the strength of the Yin-Yang family to fight against Shu Fan. After all, the strength of the Yin-Yang family was not weak. With their help, Ji Yu's confidence in Shu Fan and Han Fei increased a lot. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. On the other hand, Han Fei finally gave Xu Fan an answer, and he chose to change. As Xu Fan said, if the king of South Korea has always been his father, South Korea may also change, but the progress will be very slow. The Qin state is getting stronger and stronger, coupled with the covetousness of Chu and other countries, there is not much time left for South Korea. Even Han Fei can't wait for the day when he becomes King Han, maybe South Korea will be wiped out. The strength of Qin has long surpassed that of the other 6 countries, and its military strength is also growing. If South Korea does not carry out reforms, it will soon be squeezed out of the stage of history. What's more, Xu Fan promised him that whether it was Han Wongan or his brothers, he would handle it himself. This is also the reason why Han Fei finally chose to trust Xu Fan and change himself. He wants to be the person in this world who is in charge of the Son of Heaven sword. Not long afterward, Han Fei and Wei Zhuang left Zilanzan and went to the palace. As for Ji Wuya and others, it was handed over to Xu Fan. A bloody storm is about to be staged in Xinjiang City. Xu Fan didn't know that the Yin-Yang family also came to Xinjiang City. After all, he does not have any intelligence organization. Although Quicksand has been established, Quicksand has only been established for less than half a month. Naturally, an intelligence agency has not been established. In addition, the Yin-Yang family came this time, none of them were simple, and no one noticed it when they entered the city. Xu Fan naturally had no way of knowing that the Yin-Yang family had come to Xinjiang City. End of this chapter. Chapter 200 _ Unexpected Visitor, 3 more. Moreover, even if Xu Fan knew that the Yin-Yang family came to Xinjiang City, he would not have the slightest worry. On the contrary, Xu Fan would be very happy with the arrival of the Yin-Yang family, because he was a member of the Yin-Yang family. What's more, with his current strength, it is not impossible even to become the new Donglong Tai. He believed that as long as he appeared in the Yin-Yang family, the current East Emperor Tai would choose to give his seat to him. Just because of him, Xu Fan, he could lead the Yin-Yang family to develop stronger, and even refine the Yin-Yang family. The longevity medicine that all generations wanted to refine. Moreover, even if Concubine Yan and the others did not come to Xinjiang, Xu Fan would return to the Yin-Yang family after he had dealt with Ji Wuya. After all, his personal strength was limited, and he wanted to help Han Fei win the world. Strength is essential. When Han Fei left, Xu Fan was not in a hurry to leave Zilanchuan to find Ji Wui's trouble, because he knew that the guy would not be too far from Xinjiang. He was a Korean Admiral Army. If he left because he was afraid South Korea, then his Admiral Army can't do it. What's more, he hadn't seen Bai Yifei yet. Xu Fan felt that the two of them must be plotting something behind their backs. And just as Xu Fan thought, Bai Yifei and Ji Wuya were heading towards Zilanzan with the Yin-Yang family. This time, Ji Wuya did not bring the army with him, but only brought more than a dozen guards. After dealing with Xu Fan once, he understood that in front of a master like Xu Fan, it was useless for ordinary soldiers to come. The most important thing is the powerful masters. Only with more masters can they threaten Xu Fan. As for the 5 members of the Yin-Yang family, all of them are not weak. It is estimated that even the pair of sisters, Xiao Siming, are no worse than themselves. As for why Ji Wuya felt this way, because their bodies there is an aura of danger all the time. He even thought for a while whether these 2 girls were perverted. Those eyes were only indifferent from beginning to end, and no other emotions had ever appeared. Soon, Ji Wuya and others arrived outside Zilanzan. Because of Ji Wui's trouble, Zilanzan did not continue to open. There were not many pedestrians on the bustling streets in the past. It is estimated that they were frightened by the previous battle, and no one dared to come. Mr. Dongjun, that is Zilanzan. The ghost judge you are looking for is in Zilanzan. Xu Fan has challenged many masters of sects as a ghost judge before, but Xu Fan, the Yin and Yang family, has never been there. Therefore, the Yin-Yang family has no fixed estimate of how strong Xu Fan is. But it will definitely not be less. From the fact that Concubine Yan came in person and brought the 4 elders of the Yin-Yang family, it can be seen that the Yin-Yang family still attaches great importance to Shu Fan. When Concubine Yan and the others heard the words, they directly walked towards Zilanzan. Concubine Yan took the lead, and the other four followed behind them. As for Ji Wuya and Bai Yifei, they had nothing to do with them. They are not fools, and naturally they would not have thought that Ji Wuya would help them like this, intending to use their strength to deal with the ghost judge. But, who said they were here to deal with Shu Fan? They came, just to confirm a piece of information, that is, who is Shu Fan? And in his hand, why is there a flute of the Yin and Yang family? As for whether to attack Shu Fan or not, this is still uncertain. She brought so many people here just to ensure safety. After all, this ghost judge is the person who the guy said was dangerous. When Concubine Yan approached, the gate of Zilanzan had already been closed. Without Concubine Yan, Mrs. Shangjun and Nying stepped forward and knocked twice at the guard at the gate of Zilanzan. Dong dong. The sound is not too loud, but for those who practice martial arts, this volume is enough for the people in the room to hear. And Shu Fan, Xinu and others who were upstairs did hear it. Someone's knocking on the door. It looks like a guest is coming. Shu Fan Vivi Isho. The purple girl stood up directly on the futon. I'm going to the gate of opening. After saying that, he opened the wooden door and walked downstairs. Whoa. As Xinu opened the door of Zilanzan, Concubine Yan and others suddenly appeared in Xinu's sight. When the eyes were on Concubine Yan and others, there was a trace of doubt in Xinu's eyes, but there was a smile on her face. Are you guys okay? Looking at the dresses of Concubine Yan and others, as well as the temperament on their bodies, it can be seen that they are not like ordinary people. In particular, the three-legged golden crow embroidered on Yan Lingji's red robe made Xinu confirm that the identity of the other party is not simple. After all, who has no identity, who is qualified to embroider gold silk on clothes, and still embroider the three-legged golden crow? Let's find someone. When Xinu was watching Concubine Yan and others, Concubine Yan and others were naturally also watching Xinu. From the temperament of the purple girl and her gestures, they can see that the purple girl is not as simple as it seems on the surface. She has martial arts. But they didn't care. After all, their main target this time was Shu Fan. Looking for someone, Xinu was stunned for a moment. The people in front of her came to Zilanzan to find someone, which made her stunned. Yes, we are looking for a masked person. He has a title, Ghost Judge, said Vivi Isho, a rare concubine Yan. Under her smile, even if Xinu was a woman, she was stunned for a moment, fascinated for a moment. The purple girl frowned immediately. Sorry, there is no such person here, you may have found the wrong person. But what Xinu didn't know was that the person in front of her was from the Yin and Yang family. In front of the Yin-Yang family with mind-reading skills, although they couldn't see what Xinu was thinking at a glance, they could see that Xinu was lying. Ghost Inquisitor, right there. This girl, we are really just looking for the Ghost Judge for something, not for trouble. I hope the girl will take us to see him. We just have some doubts to ask, and we will leave after we ask. Concubine Yan was not angry, but instead as explained. If it was elsewhere, she probably had already hit it directly. But she knew about Shu Fan's danger. What's more, they didn't come to trouble Shu Fan. The purple girl obviously knew Shu Fan, so it was not easy for them to break in directly. Just ask, when did the people of the Yin-Yang family talk about the rules of the rivers and lakes? For them, their strength is the rule, and the goal they want to achieve is the reality. Let them come up. Xinu was about to say something when Shu Fan's voice suddenly sounded in Xinu's mind. Immediately, Xinu's words choked. Then he looked at Concubine Yan and everyone. Nodding. If that's the case, come in. Shu Fan also had some surprises. He didn't expect that the Yin-Yang family would find Xinjianglai. As for why he recognized the identity of Concubine Yan and others at a glance, it was naturally because of their clothes. Except for the family of Yin and Yang, who would embroider a symbol like the three-legged golden crow on their clothes. After living in the yin-yang family for so many years, if Shufan couldn't even distinguish the clothes of the yin-yang family, then he was considered a genius disciple of the yin-yang family. End of this chapter.